Chapter 1262. Bai Ling, I'm fine. Inside the god-killing sword, Bai Ling, who had been extremely worried, was overjoyed when she heard Longao's words. Brother Long, are you all right? I'll find you later. I have something important to do now. Bai Ling was pleasantly surprised to the extreme. For 3 whole years, she had been worried about Longao's safety. Now that she finally heard Longao's words, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Long is finally fine. In the deep pit, after successfully condensing the reincarnation doppelganger and breaking through to the man-god realm, Longao found that he could finally move his body. There was no hesitation. Longao turned around and did not leave openly. Instead, he chose to teleport and left quietly. Longao already knew what had happened. He did not expect that 3 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Longao did not leave the Blood Soul Valley immediately. Instead, he killed a disciple of the Blood Soul Valley and seized his soul. He wanted to find out more about the Blood Soul Valley. After a day of investigation, Longao finally knew what had happened in the past 3 years. The Martial Artists Alliance had interfered and attacked him for 3 years. Longao's face became colder and colder. It seemed that not only Shangguaniya, but also Tong Tindi and the others were not willing to let him go. In this way, he and the Martial Artists Alliance were like fire and water. One of them had to die. Martial Artists Alliance. After saying this coldly, Longao's figure disappeared. In the lobby of the Blood Soul Valley, Ren Tianqing sat alone in the lobby with a gloomy face. Ren Tianqing was still brooding over what had happened 3 years ago. In that battle, not only had his son been killed, but 2 elders had also left the sect. First, he had lost his son. Then, he had lost 2 of his elders. This was a huge blow to him and the entire sect. Ren Tianqing, I haven't seen you in 3 years. How have you been? Looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Ren Tianqing's expression changed drastically. He immediately stood up with a look of shock on his face. Ren Tianqing had never imagined that Longao, who had died 3 years ago, would suddenly appear here. What exactly happened? Ren Tianqing was dumbfounded. You don't recognize me? After fiercely swallowing his saliva, Ren Tianqing had a bitter smile on his face because he already knew what had happened. Longao from 3 years ago was actually not dead at all. Longao, you're really lucky. You're still alive. Longao smiled. Ren Tianqing, why don't we speak frankly? 3 years ago, I killed your son, but there is no such thing as father and son on the battlefield. You betrayed me. You can't blame anyone for this matter. Am I right? He nodded. From the beginning to the end, Ren Tianqing did not resent Longao because he knew that his son's death was caused by Shangguaniya. In order to kill Longao, Shangguaniya did not hesitate to sacrifice her son and even the entire Blood Soul Valley. Shangguaniya was extremely angry, but she did not dare to say anything. Longao, the grudge between you and me. Ren Tianqing waved his hand. Without waiting for Ren Tianqing to finish his words, Longao said, there is no enmity between me and the Blood Soul Valley. You brought this upon yourself. Ren Tianqing, let me give you a piece of advice. When you should stop, stop. Otherwise, the Blood Soul Valley will be destroyed. At this point, Longao did not continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. If Longao had said this 3 years ago, Ren Tianqing would not have taken it to heart. But now, Ren Tianqing's expression became more serious because Longao was definitely not a simple person. In the battle 3 years ago, everyone knew that Longao would definitely die. But in the end, Longao did not die. Not only that, Ren Tianqing could clearly sense that his aura had become stronger. He was obviously a man-god. Longao, what do you want? It's very simple. The Blood Soul Valley betrayed me. As long as you help me do one thing, the grudge between us will be written off. How about it? Ren Tianqing thought for a moment and asked, what is it? Help me lure out Shangguaniya. So simple. Yes, it's that simple. After surviving this calamity, Longao had already decided that other than continuing to search for the reincarnated body of the old ancestor, the rest of the matter was to take revenge. And the first person he would take revenge on was Shangguaniya. As for Ren Tianqing and the Blood Soul Valley, Longao only knew one thing. If others did not offend him, he would not offend them. If others wanted to offend him, he would retaliate. Also, the more merciful he was to his enemy, the more cruel he would be to himself. Longao, I'm very curious. With your strength, it's impossible for you to be a match for Shangguaniya. Even if I lure out Shangguaniya, I'm afraid you still don't have the strength to kill Shangguaniya. Ren Tianqing was very curious about this. Even if Longao's cultivation had made a breakthrough, he was only a man-god. The difference between him and a Nirvana realm cultivator was too great. The two of them were not even on the same level. However, Longao smiled and said, Ren Tianqing, you don't have to worry about this. You just need to lure out Shangguaniya. At this point, Ren Tianqing certainly would not refuse. If Shangguaniya had not given up on him in the Blood Soul Valley, Ren Tianqing might not have agreed. He might even attack Longao. However, his son's death and the departure of the two elders filled Ren Tianqing's heart with resentment. He could not wait to kill Shangguaniya. Anyway, the Blood Soul Valley could no longer dominate the second-rate forces. In this case, Ren Tianqing had decided that after dealing with Shangguaniya, he would retreat with the Blood Soul Valley. He could not afford to provoke the Martial Artists Alliance. At worst, he would just avoid them. No matter how powerful the Martial Artists Alliance was, it would not be easy to find him and his sect in the vast Tianwu continent. Thinking of this, Ren Tianqing immediately got up and left the Blood Soul Valley. A few hours later, Ren Tianqing had successfully arrived at the Martial Artists Alliance. Shangguaniya was very curious about Ren Tianqing's arrival. However, she still asked with a smile, Brother Ren, what brings you here? Although the Blood Soul Valley had lost 2 Nirvana Realm warriors, Shangguaniya still valued the Blood Soul Valley very much. After all, Ren Tianqing was a Nirvana Realm warrior. The Blood Soul Valley was more or less useful to the Martial Artists Alliance. Brother Shangguan, do you still remember the original energy shield that appeared in the deep pit when we hit Longao? Shangguaniya nodded. Of course, she knew about the original energy shield. It was also because of the original energy shield that the 9 Nirvana Realm warriors of the Martial Artists Alliance had guarded it for 3 years. In the end, if it were not for the fact that the original energy shield could not be broken, they would have continued to guard it. What did Ren Tianqing mean? Chapter 1263. Brother Shangguan, after you left, I suddenly realized that the Origin Energy Shield had disappeared. After I destroyed Longao, I realized that there was Origin Energy under the Origin Energy Shield. Are you serious? He stood up immediately. Shangguaniya was pleasantly surprised. Others might not know what Origin Energy meant, but as a Nirvana Realm martial artist, how could he not know? There was only one way for a Nirvana Realm martial artist to break through the last step. That was to merge with Origin Energy. However, it was common knowledge among Nirvana Realm martial artists that the Origin Energy of Tianwu continent was controlled by the Way of Heaven. In other words, it was extremely difficult to get Origin Energy. Let's go. They could not wait any longer. Shangguaniya was not willing to wait for even a minute. He did not even inform anyone. Shangguaniya was very selfish. In his opinion, as long as he could get Origin Energy and merge with it, he could break through the Nirvana Realm and reach the so-called Peak Realm of Martial Arts. Although the Nirvana Realm martial artist and the Peak Realm of Martial Arts were only one level apart, the gap between them was like heaven and earth. The Peak Realm of Martial Arts was the most powerful martial artist in the world. Ren Tianqing sneered in his heart. Ren Tianqing had already thought of a countermeasure for this trip to the Martial Artists Alliance. He knew that no matter what, Shangguaniya would be suspicious, except for Origin Energy. Ren Tianqing knew Shangguaniya too well. In fact, Shangguaniya was really blinded by Origin Energy. If he really had Origin Energy, why would Ren Tianqing tell him? Why not keep it for himself? That was the Origin Energy, not something else. Origin Energy was the dream of all Nirvana Realm martial artists. Blood Soul Valley. The disciples of Blood Soul Valley could now go in and out freely. However, Ren Tianqing had ordered that no one was to reveal what happened 3 years ago. Once discovered, they would be killed without mercy. That was right. 3 years ago, no one knew about the battle between Longao and Blood Soul Valley. Longao's reputation began to fade. Blood Soul Valley, in front of the main hall. Shangguaniya and Ran Tianqing returned without a hitch, and they arrived at the center of the square, where Longao was buried. Brother Ren, where is origin energy? Ren Tianqing suddenly sneered and said, Shangguaniya, 3 years ago, in order to help you, I offended Longao. I did not expect that in order to kill Longao, you would sacrifice my son, and even 2 elders left the sect. Ren Tianqing's sudden words made Shangguaniya a little confused. Brother Ren, what's wrong? Shangguaniya was very curious. Normally, Ren Tianqing would be very respectful to him. But at this moment, it seemed like Ren Tianqing had taken the wrong medicine. Ha ha ha, Shangguaniya, I really want to see how you die. Longao, come out. Since things had come to this, Ren Tianqing had decided to completely fall out with Shangguaniya. This time, regardless of whether Shangguaniya was alive or dead, he would leave with the sect. If Shangguaniya and Longao both suffered heavy injuries, and both of them died, then he could be considered to have avenged his son. Longao? Shangguaniya was shocked when he heard the name Longao. Didn't Longao die 3 years ago? Ren Tianqing, are you out of your mind? Longao did not appear. Ren Tianqing was a little dumbfounded. According to the agreement between him and Longao, as long as he lured Shangguaniya out, he would leave the rest to Longao. As for whether Longao could kill Shanghaiya, it was between the two of them. It had nothing to do with Ren Tianqing. But now, Longao did not appear. Was Longao playing a trick? As the Valley Master of the Blood Soul Valley, Ren Tianqing was also an old fox. How could he not know what Longao meant? He had been fooled. He was extremely angry, but he still said the same thing. Since things had come to this, he would definitely fall out with Shangguaniya. The only thing he was glad about was that Shanghaiya, who wanted to take the origin energy for herself, did not tell the Martial Artists Alliance about this. Even if Longao did not appear, what could he do? As long as he killed Shangguaniya, no one would know about this matter. Ren Tianqing, what are you playing at? Shangguaniya did not believe Ren Tianqing's words at all. Longao was not dead. Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he would never believe it. Shangguaniya, since you are here, stay. I want to avenge my son and my dead disciples. After hearing Ren Tianqing's words, Shangguaniya understood what had happened. It was fake that Longao was not dead, and so was the origin energy. Ren Tianqing's real purpose was to lure him to the Blood Soul Valley and kill him. Revenge? Shangguaniya sneered in his heart. His face was full of disdain and contempt. He said mockingly, Ren Tianqing, you can't blame anyone for your son's death. You can only blame Longao. However, since you put the blame on me, I will accept it. You are not my match. If you are willing to hand over your spiritual soul, I can consider letting you and the Blood Soul Valley go. From the beginning to the end, Shangguaniya did not take Ren Tianqing seriously. Shangguaniya, don't be so arrogant. If it was 10 years ago, I might be afraid of you. But now, hearing this, Shangguaniya's expression changed slightly. He knew Ren Tianqing very well. Without full confidence, Ren Tianqing would not dare to do this. Could it be that Ren Tianqing had made a breakthrough? In the distance, Longao stood alone and looked coldly at the 2 people who were staring at each other in the distance. He believed that the 2 of them could not avoid this battle. He was very successful in using a borrowed knife to kill. Bai Ling, I want to ask you, is there a high and low nirvana realm? There were 5 realms of the divine path and 4 supreme realms. Longao had a feeling that the so-called nirvana realm was also divided into different levels of strength. It was just that he did not know about it. He wanted to take this opportunity to ask Bai Ling. He believed that with Bai Ling's strength, she would know about the division of strength of the nirvana realm. A white figure flashed and Bai Ling's figure appeared. Bai Ling nodded and said, That's right, Brother Long. Above the 4 supreme realms are the 6 realms of nirvana realm. As expected, there were 5 realms of the divine path, 4 supreme realms, and 6 realms of nirvana realm. It seemed that above the peak of nirvana realm was the peak of martial Tao, which was the realm that Tian Dao and the oracle had reached. Bai Ling, what are the 6 realms of nirvana realm? Brother Long, it's very simple. The 6 realms of nirvana realm, from low to high, are the perception realm, celestial being realm, heavenly cycle realm, fate calamity realm, nirvana realm, and rebirth realm. Chapter 1264. Brother Long. Only by comprehending the heaven and earth can one condense the aura of heaven and earth. As for the nirvana rebirth, one can possess a primordial spirit. Longao was not very concerned about the 6 realms of the nirvana realm. One had to be careful at every step on the path of cultivation. He was only at the man-god realm now. There was a huge gap between the nirvana realm and the nirvana realm, let alone the nirvana rebirth realm. Brother Long. Will the two of them really fight? Definitely. Longao was very confident about this. Ren Tianqing had already put all his eggs in one basket. In addition, his son had died tragically 3 years ago. Ren Tianqing would definitely not let Shangguaniye go this time. Longao knew very well that Ren Tianqing would definitely not help him this time if he was not very confident. No one was a fool to have a foolproof plan. Ren Tianqing, I'll give you one last chance. Ha ha ha, what a load of nonsense. I'd like to see how you're going to leave the Blood Soul Valley today. Ren Tianqing had already sealed off the entire square. No one was allowed to enter without permission. In other words, the battle between the two of them would not be discovered by anyone. Even if they were discovered by the disciples, so what? As long as he was fast enough, he could leave with the sect. It would not be easy for the Martial Artists Alliance to find him. Since things had already come to this point, Ren Tianqing knew very well that Shangguaniye had to die. In the next second, Ren Tianqing had already dashed out. Before he arrived, the terrifying aura of heaven and earth had already arrived. Primordial Spirit. Shangguaniye was completely dumbfounded when he sensed that Ren Tianqing's aura of heaven and earth had merged with the power of the primordial spirit. This was because he had never thought that Ren Tianqing, who had always been obedient to him, would actually be a Nirvana Rebirth realm martial artist. Among the 6 realms of the Nirvana realm, the Nirvana realm was the peak. Due to the breakthrough of the Nirvana Rebirth realm, the spiritual soul would transform and completely transform into a primordial spirit. The gap between the spiritual soul and the primordial spirit was huge. This was also why Ren Tianqing was so confident. He did not dare to be careless. Shangguaniye had already lost his will to continue fighting. He could not wait to turn around and leave immediately. Shangguaniye had already reached the Nirvana realm and was only a step away from the Rebirth realm. The difference between the two of them was only in the primordial spirit and divine soul. However, Shangguaniye knew very well that with Ren Tianqing's strength, she would definitely lose if they continued to fight like this. Let's go. This was Shangguaniye's first thought, but would Ren Tianqing agree? Ren Tianqing wasn't a fool. Once Ren Tianqing left and returned to the Martial Artists Alliance, he would be in big trouble. When the Martial Artists Alliance's army arrived, not only him, but the entire Blood Soul Valley would be destroyed in an instant. Nirvana Rebirth. Although Ren Tianqing was confident in his own strength, he knew very well that there were many masters in the Martial Artists Alliance. Even the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Tiandi, was not someone he could fight against. Tong Tiandi, a super figure in the top 10 of the Heaven leaderboard. What about him? He could not even enter the top 15 of the Heaven leaderboard. Therefore, no matter what happened, he could not allow Shangguaniye to leave the Blood Soul Valley and return to the Martial Artists Alliance. This battle could only be won, not lost. That was exactly what he wanted. Ren Tianqing was going all out. His palms turned into countless palm shadows and danced in the air. From afar, it was impossible to see Ren Tianqing's figure clearly. This was the speed of a Nirvana realm warrior. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already exchanged 30 moves. There was no clear winner for the time being, but the gap between their strength was still huge. If they continued to fight, Shangguaniye would definitely lose and Ren Tianqing would win. Shangguaniye, I'll show you my blood soul palm. As soon as he finished speaking, Ren Tianqing's speed suddenly increased. His figure was like a shooting star. Then, Ren Tianqing continued to throw out countless blood-red palm shadows. One palm strike after another, the palm strikes never stopped. The sky was filled with palm shadows. It was like a sea of blood, which looked extremely strange. Retreating step by step, Shangguaniye's expression became more and more unsightly. Ren Tianqing's palms were too powerful, and he would definitely die in less than 10 moves. Was he going to die like this? Shangguaniye was definitely unwilling to accept this. Left with no choice, Shanghai could only grit his teeth and prepare to escape using the blood escape. However, at this moment, the aura of heaven and earth descended and shrouded the two of them. The two of them who were fighting were forcibly separated. Ren Tianqing was shocked when he saw Tong Tiandi in front of him. He did not know why Tong Tiandi suddenly appeared. Alliance Master. Shangguan Aya heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the Alliance Master. Although Ren Tianqing's cultivation had reached the Nirvana realm, there was still a difference in strength between the same realm. As a Nirvana realm martial artist, the Alliance Master's strength was infinitely close to the peak of martial arts, and he was ranked in the top 10 of the Heaven Roll. Ren Tianqing was definitely not a match for the Alliance Master. Moreover, the Alliance Master had just attacked and Ren Tianqing was forcibly separated. This in itself showed the difference in strength between the Alliance Master and Ren Tianqing. Shangguaniya, I will punish you when we return to the Alliance Master later. Remember, if you want to obtain the origin energy, you have to consider your own strength. Next time, I will not interfere. Shangguaniya's heart skipped a beat. He had never seen the Alliance Master like this. It seemed that he had crossed the Alliance Master's bottom line by coming here without permission, especially in search of the origin energy. He would be lying if he said that he was not afraid. Shangguaniya retreated to the side and did not dare to say a word because he did not know if the Alliance Master would kill him. The origin energy was the Alliance Master's bottom line. No one dared to violate it. Ren Tianqing, even if you are dissatisfied with the Alliance, you don't have to do this. Our Alliance has always taken care of your Blood Soul Valley. Why are you doing this to the Alliance? Ren Tianqing laughed and said, Alliance Master, I know your character very well. 3 years ago, in order to help Shangguaniya deal with Longao, I even sacrificed my son. But what about Shangguaniya? He did not put the Blood Soul Valley in his eyes at all. Such a person will destroy the Alliance sooner or later. Before Shangguaniya could finish speaking, a slap landed on Shangguaniya's face. This slap stunned Shangguaniya. As the Vice Alliance Master of the Alliance, Shangguaniya's status was there. Even Tong Tiandi would not normally act like this. Because of this, Shangguaniya kept retreating because he knew that the Alliance Master was really angry at this moment. Otherwise, the Alliance Master would not treat him like this. Shangguaniya is the Vice Alliance Master after all. Even if you have made a mistake, you should tell me and not kill someone without permission. Author's note. Delivered in Chapter 9. Delivered in the morning. Chapter 1265. Shielding. Ren Tianqing cursed in his heart. Tong Tiandi was obviously trying to protect Shangguaniya, who was standing behind him. Ren Tianqing, I'll give you a chance. As long as you agree, I'll let bygones be bygones. Alliance Master, please. Ren Tianqing could ignore Shangguaniya, but he didn't dare to ignore Tong Tiandi. Especially now. Ren Tianqing knew very well that Tong Tiandi could destroy Blood Soul Valley and himself at any time if he wanted to. From now on, Blood Soul Valley will no longer exist in Tianwu continent. Alliance Master, what do you mean? Ren Tianqing was shocked by Tong Tiandi's words. My meaning is simple. From now on, you and Blood Soul Valley will join the Alliance. But you can rest assured that you'll become the Deputy Alliance Master. Ren Tianqing had to admit that Tong Tiandi's offer was very tempting. Blood Soul Valley was one of the top second-rate forces, but it was nothing compared to the Martial Artists Alliance. If it were someone else, they might agree. But Ren Tianqing, he would rather be the Valley Master of Blood Soul Valley than the Deputy Alliance Master of Martial Artists Alliance. But Ren Tianqing knew that he couldn't refuse under such circumstances. Ren Tianqing didn't say anything and just stood there quietly. All of a sudden, Alliance Master, if I use a secret to exchange with you, can I not hand over the Blood Soul Valley and even write off the debt? He was a little surprised. Tong Tiandi didn't agree. After all, no one knew what the other party's secret was. What if it wasn't worth it? The Martial Artists Alliance wanted to conquer Blood Soul Valley for a long time. But the Martial Artists Alliance knew that Blood Soul Valley had 3 Nirvana Realm warriors. They wouldn't agree so easily. That was why the Martial Artists Alliance had delayed for so long. But what was the result? The 2 elders of Blood Soul Valley had left, and Blood Soul Valley's strength had decreased by 2/3. It would be a lie to say that Ren Tianqing didn't feel bad. In order to prevent further accidents from happening, Tong Tiandi was prepared to immediately incorporate the Blood Soul Valley, especially the Blood Soul Valley's chief Tianxing. Among the 8 vice presidents of the Martial Artists Alliance, only a few could defeat Ren Tianxing. Alliance Master, Longao is not dead. Bullshit. Ren Tianxing, don't talk nonsense here. Tong Tiandi waved his hand and stopped Shangguan Iya. Tong Tiandi knew that Ren Tianxing wouldn't have said that if he wasn't completely confident. Moreover, he had already arrived, so Ren Tianxing had no reason to provoke him. Could it be that Longao was still alive? Ren Tianxing, you know the consequences of lying to me. Alliance Master, I don't have to lie to you. The reason why I attacked Shangguan Iya this time was because Longao threatened me and asked me to lure Shangguan Iya here. Tong Tiandi, cut the crap. You didn't kill me 3 years ago. I'll definitely take my revenge. Longao turned around and looked at Ren Tianxing. He smiled and said, do you think that you can rest easy after joining the Martial Artists Alliance? Ren Tianxing, I can tell you clearly that Shangguan Iya is a despicable and shameless person. Once you join the Martial Artists Alliance, you'll die without a burial place in a short time. In fact, Longao didn't need to say this. Ren Tianxing knew what kind of person Shangguan Iya was. Now that he and Shanghai Iya had made such a scene, he believed that once he joined the Martial Artists Alliance, only death would await him. Therefore, from the beginning to the end, he had never thought that he would bring the Blood Soul Valley into the Warrior Alliance. Longao, how dare you trick me? Today, I'll kill you with my own hands. With just you? Longao laughed. His expression showed that he didn't care about them at all. The more he acted like this, the more uncertain Tong Tiandi, Shanghai Iya, and Ren Tianxing felt. Could it be that Longao still had some tricks up his sleeve? Tong Tiandi and the other 2 didn't attack immediately. They knew that if they couldn't kill Longao now, once Longao escaped, it would be extremely difficult to find another opportunity in the future. Therefore, they couldn't miss this opportunity. P.S. All 10 chapters have been delivered. Little 9 has to wake up early to deliver the goods tomorrow, so he'll be going to bed first. Good night, everyone. If you have votes, you can vote for Little 9. Little 9 will try his best to continue tomorrow. Chapter 1266. 3 Nirvana Realm Warriors besieging a Man-God Realm Warrior. No one would believe it if word got out. Shangguan Iya took out the crystal ball. As long as she interfered with the spatial fluctuations, it would be difficult for Longao to leave. Shangguan Iya gave Tong Tiandi a look. Her meaning was clear. Longao, I can give you a chance. As long as you follow me back to the Alliance, I can spare your life. Although it could interfere with the spatial fluctuations, Tong Tiandi was still a little worried. What if Longao really left? The lesson from 3 years ago was still vivid in his mind. Would Longao agree? Longao was not a fool. He knew that once he followed Tong Tiandi and the others back to the Martial Artists Alliance, his life would be in the hands of the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao smiled. Tong Tiandi, as the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, you're not a child, are you? Kill. Tong Tiandi already knew what Longao was thinking. Since that was the case, he had nothing to say. Ren Tianxing and Shangguan Iya attacked at the same time. One on the left and one on the right, they surrounded Longao. In the end, Ren Tianxing chose Tong Tiandi. After all, Tong Tiandi's status and strength were obvious. As for whether the Blood Soul Valley would join the Martial Artists Alliance in the future, that was a matter for the future. The power of 2 Nirvana Realm Warriors attacking at the same time was imaginable. Longao did not dare to be careless. Before he appeared, he already knew that Shangguan Iya would definitely use the divine weapon to interfere with the spatial fluctuations. In other words, it was impossible for him to enter the Dragon Seal space. Before reaching the Nirvana realm, there was no difference between spirit focus and man-god. For Longao, the only difference was that his 9-cycle reincarnation technique had successfully broken through the 3rd cycle and formed the reincarnation immortal doppelganger. But could the reincarnation immortal doppelganger fight against 2 Nirvana realm warriors? There was no doubt about it. Longao turned and left. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's speed was extremely fast. Even if there were 2 of them, it would be difficult for them to catch up to him. No matter how fast he was, He couldn't be faster than teleportation. Longao, are you leaving? Shangguan sneered. He didn't kill the other party 3 years ago. So today, no matter what happened, he would kill the other party. But in the next moment, the Samsara immortal clone appeared. The reincarnation doppelganger was almost identical to Longao. Even his aura and divine soul were exactly the same. Because of this, neither Ren Tianqing nor Shangguan Yi could sense the difference between the reincarnation doppelganger and Longao. It was because of the reincarnation avatar that Longao dared to show himself. Under the cover of his samsara doppelganger, Longao teleported away. It was 1 against 2. The reincarnation doppelganger fought against the 2 Nirvana realm warriors. In just a few seconds, the reincarnation doppelganger had been hit more than 30 times. If it was an ordinary person, even Longao, he would have died. But what was the result? The reincarnation doppelganger had an immortal soul, and his physical body was condensed in the chaotic Dantian. It was impossible for the 2 of them to destroy the reincarnation doppelganger. Longao was very confident about this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let the reincarnation doppelganger act as a cover and left alone. Immortal? They kept attacking Longao, but no matter how they attacked, Longao didn't die. Ren Tianqing and Shangguan Yi were completely dumbfounded. They had never thought that Longao would be immortal. When they recalled that 3 years ago, Longao didn't die even after being attacked by the 4 of them, they were terrified. They didn't continue attacking. Instead, they took 3 steps back and looked coldly at Longao. The 2 of them looked at Tong Tiandi, who was behind them. Until now, the 2 of them still did not know what had happened. Longao's cultivation was right there. He was just a puny deity expert, but his physical defense was a little too abnormal. Could it be that Longao had a fortuitous encounter in the past 3 years? Longao, have you integrated with the origin energy? Tong Tiandi was also shocked. Longao's physical defense was too strong. Tong Tiandi was very confident in his own strength, but he didn't dare to stand still and let the 3 of them attack him continuously. He believed that he would be killed in less than 3 moves. Since that was the case, how could Longao be so strong as to resist the attacks of 2 Nirvana realm warriors? Unless it was the origin energy. But could a man-god master integrate with the origin energy? Tong Tiandi even thought that if he could have Longao's physical defense, wouldn't he be invincible under the martial Tao pinnacle? What does it have to do with you whether I integrate with the origin energy? The reincarnation avatar's tone was almost exactly the same as Longao's. The only difference was that the reincarnation avatar's face was extremely cold, like a zombie's. Even so, Tong Tiandi and the others still couldn't see through the trick. They believed that no one in the world could see through it, let alone the 3 of them. Because no one would have guessed that Longao would condense a reincarnation avatar. Longao, the reincarnation avatar, was clearly impatient. He scolded fiercely, "Just 3 pieces of trash. You want to keep me here? What a joke." The reincarnation avatar turned around and left, ignoring the 3's attacks. The 3 of them were shocked. From the beginning to the end, the 3 of them didn't know what was going on with Longao. How did Longao's physical defense become so terrifying in just 3 years? Alliance Master. Tong Tiandi waved his hand. He also didn't know what had happened, but he knew that Longao couldn't be kept alive. Otherwise, the Martial Artists Alliance would be in trouble in the future. The 2 of you go and look for Longao quietly. Remember, don't kill him. Longao is very important to me. Ren Tianqing and Shangguan Yi nodded. Just as the 2 of them were about to leave to look for Longao, Tong Tiandi suddenly said, "Ren Tianqing, from now on, the Blood Soul Valley will be a subsidiary of the Martial Artists Alliance. As for you, you will be the Alliance's guest elder." Hearing this, Ren Tianqing was overjoyed. However, when he looked at Shangguan Yi, his intention was clear. After all, he and Shanghai Yi had already fallen out. The Martial Artists Alliance was also Shanghai Yi's territory. When the time came, he would be in a very passive position. How could Tong Tiandi not understand Ren Tianqing's intention? He looked at Ren Tianqing and Shanghai Yi and said coldly, "From now on, the grudge between the 2 of you is written off. If I find out that you set each other up, I won't show any mercy. I'll kill you without mercy." Shanghai Yi cursed in her heart. However, she still felt relieved. The Alliance Master didn't continue to pursue the matter. It was a blessing in disguise. Rintianqing and Shanghai said at the same time, "Understood, Alliance Master." Chapter 1267. Seeing the medallion in his hand slowly turn dim, Longao was somewhat dumbfounded. Longao was very clear about what the token meant. Ancestor's reincarnated body had fallen? He did not recover from his shock for a long time. He had entered the Blood Soul Valley to find the reincarnated body of his ancestor. But what was the result? He had almost died in order to find the reincarnated body of his ancestor. In the end, everything was in vain. Brother Long, don't be like this. It is very dangerous to enter the path of reincarnation. Long Ao nodded. Long Ao knew how terrifying the path of reincarnation was. He did not continue to dwell on it. Long Ao told Bai Ling about what had happened to him. After listening to him, Bai Ling sighed. Xiling and Long Fu appeared at the same time. They did not know about Long Ao's reincarnated body either. Long Fu, you don't know either? He shook his head. Long Fu was also surprised. He said, although the 9-cycle reincarnation technique is powerful, it can't produce reincarnated bodies. Even Long Fu did not know. Long Ao felt a little helpless. In any case, the power of the reincarnated body was obvious. If the reincarnated body had not blocked the 3 Nirvana Realm warriors, it would have been difficult for him to leave the Blood Soul Valley. Violet's spirit thought for a moment before she said, according to my guess, if I'm not mistaken, the 9-cycle samsara technique is one of the reasons why you were able to create a reincarnation clone. However, the main reason is your bloodline and your background. Reincarnation? Now that he thought about it, Long Ao felt that it was a little strange. It seemed that Xiling's guess was not groundless. Long Ao, it seems like your 9-cycle reincarnation technique has undergone a transformation. It is many times more powerful than the 9-cycle reincarnation technique that you used to cultivate. If you continue to cultivate it and reach the so-called 9-cycle, it is hard to imagine what will happen to you. Mutated cultivation technique? Long Ao was a little surprised to hear Xiling's words. The 9-cycle reincarnation technique was already powerful enough, but he did not expect that after it mutated, it would become even more powerful, as Xiling said. That was why Long Ao was looking forward to the next breakthrough of the 9-cycle reincarnation technique. 2nd cycle, spatial teleportation. 3rd cycle, eternal samsara body. What would happen if he reached the 4th, 5th, or even the 9 cycles? Long Ao, right now, we can already be sure that you are a member of the reincarnation clan, and your bloodline has been sealed, so your cultivation speed and strength are far more than that. Sister. He waved his hand. I know what to do. Xiling's face was very serious as she continued to say, Long Ao, although you are from the Luan clan, I want to tell you clearly that although the Luan clan was the strongest clan back then, the Luan clan had a lot of enemies. Once you are discovered by these people, I believe you know the consequences. He nodded. Regarding the meaning of what Purple Spirit said, how could Long Ao not know? Violet Spirit, I would like to ask, who was the one who sealed the Luan clan back then? Long Ao had always been curious about this, but the mysterious young man did not want to tell him, so there was nothing he could do about it. Long Ao did not know why, but he had a feeling that Xiling knew something about the Luan clan. Now is not the time. F***CK. He cursed in his heart. It was the same sentence again. Long Ao was tired of hearing it. Whether it was Xiling or the mysterious young man, they all meant the same thing. He did not have the right to know. Xiling did not want to say more, so Long Ao did not ask further. Xiling and Long Fu shrugged helplessly. They returned to the Godslayer sword and the Dragon Seal space, leaving only Bai Ling, Brother Long. The enemies of the Luan clan are all from powerful clans. I hope you can improve your strength as soon as possible. Bai Ling, I understand. Long Ao did not make things difficult for Bai Ling. Then, Long Ao left the Blood Soul Valley to return to the sect. Now that the reincarnated body of the ancestor had fallen, there was no point in staying in the Blood Soul Valley. As for Rintianqing and Shangguaniya, Long Ao was very clear that it would be extremely difficult to deal with them under such circumstances. It seemed like he would have to slowly find an opportunity in the future. Phoenix Clan. After 3 years and 5 months, Aoshue still had not given birth. Her belly was still slightly swollen. She did not show any signs of wanting to have a child. Whether it was the phoenixes or the humans, such a phenomenon had never happened before. Even Aoshue felt a little helpless. Looking at her daughter in front of her, Luing smiled and said, "Aoshue, I really didn't expect that since you were pregnant, even if you didn't cultivate, your strength would improve so quickly. In just 3 years, you have broken through to the divine realm. At this speed, I believe it won't be long before you can break through to the supreme divine realm." Aoshue did not care about her own strength. At this moment, she only cared about one thing, and that was the child in her belly. "Mother, it has been 3 years and 5 months. What is going on with my belly?" Luing did not know what was going on. She said helplessly, "Aoshue, your grandfather and I have been discussing this for 3 years. We still do not know what is going on. 3 years and 5 months. If I had not seen it with my own eyes, I would not have believed it." "Aoshue, I know what you are worried about. However, you don't have to worry. I can tell you clearly that the child in your belly is not simple. I have already discussed with your grandfather. As long as you can break through to the Nirvana rebirth realm, not only will you be able to reunite with Longao, but your father and I will also be able to be together." Hearing those words, Aoshue did not have the slightest bit of joy because she knew very well what the Nirvana rebirth that her mother spoke of meant. The Nirvana rebirth was already infinitely close to the peak state of the martial way. Even if her cultivation speed was fast, it was still unknown whether she could break through to the Nirvana rebirth realm. Moreover, she did not know how long it would take. "Mother, I will work hard." Luing smiled. She seemed to see hope when she saw her daughter. If it was someone else, she would not believe it. After all, the Nirvana rebirth realm was too difficult. However, her daughter was different. Apart from her physique, she was also pregnant. Her cultivation speed was thousands of times faster than ordinary people. She believed that her daughter would be able to break through to the Nirvana rebirth realm soon. "Aoshue, don't worry. The entire Phoenix clan will help you." Since things had come to this point, Aoshue could only agree. Even if it was not for herself, she had to do it for the child in her belly. Chapter 1268. In the Martial Artists Alliance. The Martial Artists Alliance chose to keep everything about Longao under wraps. In other words, Yuin knew nothing about Longao. Otherwise, Yuin would have chosen to leave by now. After 3 years of cultivation, Yuin had successfully broken through to the peak of the divine realm. She was only 1 step away from the Nirvana realm. However, this step was as difficult as climbing to the sky. Outside the water moon cave, Tong Tiandi and Hades stood quietly. Their faces were filled with anxiety, because both of them knew very well that Yuin was only 1 step away from breaking through to the Nirvana realm. "Alliance Master, if Yuin really breaks through to the Nirvana realm, do we really have to do this?" Hades was really reluctant. However, the Martial Artists Alliance's Alliance Master had the final say. She couldn't. She nodded. Tong Tiandi's face was filled with determination. He said, "Longao is becoming more and more unpredictable. Now, we and Longao are like fire and water. If we don't get rid of him, he will always be a big problem for the Alliance." Just based on one Longao? Hades didn't want to believe that the little piece of trash from before had become a big problem for the Alliance Master. "Alliance Master, once we control Yu Yin's mind, it will cause great harm to Yu Yin's cultivation in the future." She waved her hand. Tong Tiandi sneered and said, "Of course I know that. However, Yuin can't wait for the future." Although Hades already knew what would happen, she still couldn't do anything. She didn't want to hurt Yuin at all, even if there was a slight chance. However, she was a member of the Martial Artists Alliance. Between the Alliance and Yuin, she would choose the Alliance without hesitation, not Yuin. Success. At this time, a powerful chi of heaven and earth was released from Aquamoon Heavenly Cave. Hades and Tong Tiandi were delighted. They looked at each other and saw the joy in each other's eyes. "Hades, move out." No matter how unwilling Hades was, he knew that he had to do it. There was no other way. Hades and Tong Tiendi had already disappeared outside the Water Moon Cave. Dragon Peak, inside the main hall of the Dragon Sect. Long Ao's return caused Dugu Bai and Long Ying to be pleasantly surprised. For 3 whole years, Long Ao's whereabouts were unknown. The two of them could be said to be extremely worried. Seventh brother, are you all right? He shook his head. Long Ao smiled. How could he not know the worries of the two of them? Long Ao didn't hide anything. He told her about how he had almost died in the battle with the Blood Soul Valley 3 years ago. After hearing this, the two of them sighed endlessly and were also extremely shocked. The two of them knew very well that if their 7th brother had been careless in the battle with the Blood Soul Valley, he might not have been able to return. 7th brother, I hope that you can inform us about this in the future. Big brother, don't worry. Not only did I survive this time, but I also made a breakthrough. The two of them helplessly shrugged their shoulders when they saw Long Ao's unconcerned face. This was because from their point of view, a breakthrough of 1 level was not worth mentioning when compared to Long Ao's life. Big brother, what has changed in the sect in the past 3 years? Long Ao didn't want to continue thinking about this question. How could the two of them not know? Dugabai said, Brother Long, we have communicated with the clans in the Jiuzhou continent. After 3 years of refining, more than 1,000 people have obtained the Divine Tao inheritance. Some of them have already started to break through to the Divine Tao realm. At this rate, I believe that everyone will break through to the Divine Tao realm in less than 3 years. Hearing this, Long Ao was delighted. More than 1,000 people had broken through to the Divine Tao realm. This was great news for the sect. As for the sect, we haven't made any progress in the past 3 years. Long Hang and Shangguan Iya have been suppressing us, but they can't find our whereabouts. They can't do anything to us. Long Hang and Shangguan Iya again. Long Ao knew that as long as the two of them weren't eliminated, they would always be a big problem for the sect. However, with his current strength and the power of the sect, it was not the best time to provoke the two of them. However, Long Ao was very clear that once he seized the opportunity, he would not hesitate to attack and kill the two of them. 7th brother, now that you're back, there's something I want to tell you. Our dragon sect has entered the Tianwu continent. If this continues, it won't work. Long Ao nodded. How could he not know this problem? He said helplessly, Big brother, I believe you should know that I have a lot of people to worry about now. As long as our dragon sect shows up, we'll immediately be besieged by enemies from all directions. At that time, there will be wolves in front and tigers behind. I'm afraid it won't be so easy for us to retreat. Although they knew this, the two of them were still a little unwilling. The Tianwu continent was a place full of temptations. Although there were many dangers here, as long as they could rise, they would be able to occupy a place. At that time, everyone in the Tianwu continent would know about the dragon sect. However, as Long Ao said, the two of them knew that they had to be careful. If something went wrong, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, a servant hurriedly rushed into the main hall. Before the three of them could ask anything, the servant had already knelt on one knee and said anxiously, reporting to Sect Master, Vice Sect Master, this is an invitation from the Martial Arts Alliance. The invitation card of the Martial Artists Alliance. Receiving the invitation card from the servant, Dugu Bai waved his hand and said curiously, we and the Martial Artists Alliance are like fire and water. It's almost to the point where it's either you die or I die. Even if there's something going on, the Martial Artists Alliance shouldn't have sent us an invitation card. What's going on? Not to mention Dugu Bai, even Long Ying and Long Ao were a little curious. Why would the Martial Artists Alliance send them an invitation card for no reason? Could it be that the Martial Artists Alliance had nothing better to do? Dugu Bai opened the invitation card and glanced at it. His face instantly changed. He looked at Long Ao, as if there was something that he couldn't say. Seeing this situation, Long Ao's heart skipped a beat. He had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. He asked, Big brother Dugu, what's going on? He let out a deep sigh. Dugu Bai said helplessly, the Martial Artists Alliance wants to hold a blind date for Yuan. They're inviting all the heroes of the world to go to the Martial Artists Alliance. As long as the winner can become Yu Yin's husband, They can also receive the full support of the Martial Artists Alliance. More importantly, the invitation card has already stated that Yuin has a special body. Once they get together, no matter who it is, it will be a great help to them. Long Ying was shocked. At this moment, Long Ao's face was extremely gloomy. The armrest in his right hand instantly turned into powder and scattered on the ground. Chapter 1269. Arena Matchmaking. To put it bluntly, it was the so-called martial arts competition to find a spouse. The Martial Artists Alliance had a huge appetite. They had invited all the young talents in the world to the arena matchmaking. The three of them could even guess that there would be super geniuses on the Earth ranking among those who would go to the Martial Artists Alliance for the arena matchmaking. Sitting in his seat, Long Ao's face became gloomier and gloomier. He was emitting a cold, murderous aura. The entire hall was filled with a murderous aura that lingered in every corner. Dugubai and Longing looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. Because until now, no one knew what the Martial Artists Alliance wanted to do. Maybe others did not know, but the two of them knew very well about the relationship between Yuin and Long Ao. Setting up an arena matchmaking for Yuin was obviously a show for Long Ao. What did the Martial Artists Alliance want to do? Seventh brother. He waved his hand. Big brother, I'm fine. I want to be alone. Both of them sighed deeply and shrugged helplessly. Then, they slowly withdrew from the hall. In the entire Great Hall, only Long Ao alone was left. Martial Artists Alliance, you're playing with fire. Long Ao was very calm. He knew that the Martial Artists Alliance wanted to use Yuin to deal with him. It seemed that Tong Tiandi was really afraid of him. Otherwise, the Martial Artists Alliance would not have done this. Martial Artists Alliance. They announced to the world that they would set up an arena matchmaking for Yuin. They invited all the young talents in the world to go to the Martial Artists Alliance. Not many geniuses would go to the Martial Artists Alliance, even if they were extremely beautiful. However, Yu Yin's situation was different. Firstly, Yu Yin's beauty went without saying. Secondly, he was Yu Yin's master, and there was no need to mention his identity. Thirdly, the Martial Artists Alliance had announced to the world that no matter who it was, as long as they could win Yu Yin's favor, they would receive the full support of the Martial Artists Alliance. Fourthly, and most importantly, Yuin had a special physique. Once he married Yuin, his cultivation would increase rapidly. Because of this, many geniuses rushed to the Martial Artists Alliance, including the most prominent geniuses. Longbo, who had a long family, was one of them. The Martial Artists Alliance would set up the matchmaking ring 10 days later. Martial Artists Alliance. A huge ring had been set up in the center of the huge square. It was extremely shocking. It seemed that the Martial Artists Alliance attached great importance to the matchmaking in the ring this time. In front of the arena, Tong Tiandi and the 8 Vice Alliance Masters stood in front of the palace. Alliance Master, will we offend Long Ao by doing this? Tang Hao more or less wanted to help Long Ao. If it weren't for his identity, he wouldn't want to deal with Long Ao, especially because of his granddaughter. I'm doing this to deal with Long Ao. Tang Hao seemed to want to say something, but Shang Guanyi said first, Tang Hao, Long Ao has been provoking the Martial Artists Alliance. If he's still alive, the Martial Artists Alliance will lose face. Tang Hao was speechless. Tang Hao knew very well that what Shang Guanyi said was true. The whole world knew that Long Ao had been provoking the Martial Artists Alliance. If Long Ao didn't die, the Martial Artists Alliance would lose face. Shang Guanyi is right. I'm setting up the ring this time to deal with Long Ao. Remember, once Long Ao enters the alliance in 10 days, you have to keep him alive no matter what. Otherwise, the Martial Artists Alliance will. Tong Tiandi didn't finish his words, but the meaning was clear. The Martial Artists Alliance made such a big fuss this time to deal with Long Ao. When the time came, the Martial Artists Alliance would deal with Long Ao together. If Long Ao still left, the Martial Artists Alliance could go to hell. The first failure was due to the Martial Artists Alliance's carelessness. What if they failed twice? Alliance Master, 10 days later, if nothing unexpected happens, the other 9 sects of the 10 Directions tripod will come. If we deal with Long Ao, the other sects like the Heaven and Earth sect, the Long family, and the Five-Element sect will intervene. What should we do? Tong Tiandi also thought about this. He thought for a while. If nothing unexpected happens, the Five-Element sect won't come. Regarding this point, Tong Tiandi was still rather confident. This time, the arena was set up for Lin Yuan to find a partner. Even if there were people from the Ten-Direction Cauldron, they would all be youngsters. As for the elders of the Five-Element sect and the Heaven and Earth sect, they would definitely not come. We only have 10 days left. Make the arrangements. This time, I have to make sure nothing goes wrong. There can't be any mistakes. Yes, Alliance Master. Now that things had come to this point, Tang Hao could only sigh deeply in his heart. In the following days, the Martial Artists Alliance made the arrangements secretly. In the whole Tianwu continent, except for a few people, no one knew about the relationship between Longao and Yuan. Therefore, no one knew that the Martial Artists Alliance set up the ring to deal with Longao. Everyone knew about the grudge between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance, but no one would link the two things together. After all, in the eyes of outsiders, the two things were not related at all. In the Warrior Alliance, in a simple and elegant room with a beautiful environment. Looking at Yuan, who was in a daze, Hades sighed deeply in his heart. As her master, he should be happy that Yuan had broken through to the Nirvana realm. But what happened? Yu Yin's mind had been disturbed. In other words, Yuan was no longer the Yuan from before. She did not have her own consciousness and was like a walking corpse. After this incident, his disciple was completely crippled. In order to deal with Longao, he sacrificed Yuan. Although Tong Tiandi did not say it out loud, Hades knew very well that Tong Tiandi was very afraid of Longao. If she did not see it with her own eyes, she would not have believed it even if she was beaten to death. At this moment, Yuan sat quietly by the bed. Her eyes were empty, and there was no expression on her face. If Longao saw Yuan now, no one knew what he would think of Longao. Yuan, Master is sorry. But Master promises you that no matter what happens, Master will protect your life. This is all Master can do. Hades's face was also very pale. Every time she saw Yuan, she felt a deep sense of guilt. But it was still the same. Since things had come to this point, she could only try her best to protect Yuan's life. In fact, Hades knew very well that whether she could protect Yuan in the future was really uncertain. Hades disappeared. In the elegant room, there was only a dazed Yuan left. She did not know anything and did not have the slightest consciousness. As for the 8 Vice Alliance Masters, they looked at each other. I'll go first. Tang Hao smiled. Actually, the strength of the 8 Vice Alliance leaders was there for all to see. Any one of them would not be able to withstand more than 10 moves. Tong Tiandi and the others all smiled. He took a step forward. In the next second, Tang Hao's figure appeared in the huge arena. The matchmaking arena has officially begun. I wonder who would like to come up and have a try? Have a try? How? What a joke. Tang Hao's cultivation had already reached the Nirvana realm. He was only one step away from the Rebirth realm. Even a peak Emperor God Warrior would not be able to withstand 10 moves from Tang Hao. However, everyone felt relieved after thinking about it. If the matchmaking arena was so simple, then the Martial Artists Alliance would not be the Martial Artists Alliance. The more the Martial Artists Alliance acted like this, the more the people around the arena looked forward to the winner. After all, this could directly reflect how much importance the Martial Arts Alliance placed on this blind date in the arena. I'll do it. Longbo smiled. Longbo had full confidence in his strength. Although he was not a match for a Nirvana Realm warrior, he believed that he could withstand 10 moves from a Nirvana Realm warrior. However, the result. Right at this moment, a sudden clap of thunder came from the sky. A terrifying chi of heaven and earth directly descended. Chi of heaven and earth? What did this mean? Everyone's expression changed. The chi of heaven and earth was the unique chi of a Nirvana Realm warrior. In other words, the warrior who suddenly appeared at this moment was a real Nirvana Realm warrior. Looking at the spatial fluctuation in the distance, Tong Tiandi and the others all stood up. They already knew who was coming. Again, others might not know, but they knew very well the relationship between Longao and Yuan. The Martial Artists Alliance did this to draw Longao here, and then deal with Longao. As for whether Longao would come back or not, Tong Tiandi and the others were not sure. After all, how many people in the world could take such a risk for a woman? Longao really came. Tong Tiandi more or less admired this person. Not to mention other things, Longao's courage alone was worthy of their respect. As expected, Longao split the clouds with his palm. His figure had already appeared in the emptiness of the ninth heaven. Stepping on the clouds, he looked down at the Martial Artists Alliance with a cold face. Originally, he had planned to appear only when the Martial Artists Alliance was halfway through the battle. However, he decided to act immediately. Longao did not want these people to sully his Yuan. This time, no matter what happened, even if he had to massacre the Martial Artists Alliance, he would not hesitate as long as he could take Yuan away. This time, Longao had already made up his mind. If he could not take Yuan away, then he would die in the Martial Artists Alliance. In any case, he would not let anyone hurt Yuan. Tong Tiandi, Shangguaniya, I'm coming. Looking at the figure in the emptiness of the ninth heaven, everyone was a little dumbfounded. The Martial Artists Alliance was one of the top 10 forces in the Tianwu continent. Who would dare to provoke the Martial Artists Alliance? Not to mention an individual, even the other 9 super forces would not dare to provoke the Martial Artists Alliance casually. Longao, who do you think you are? How dare you behave so atrociously in the Martial Artists Alliance? Shangguaniya was extremely surprised. He was really afraid that Longao would not come. Now that Longao was here, with the Martial Artists Alliance's arrangement, Longao would definitely die. Longao? Hearing Shangguaniya's words, everyone already knew who the person was. It turned out that this was the master of the dragon sect, Longao, the lunatic who broke into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killed their disciples. Provoking the Martial Artists Alliance was a lunatic. Did Longao come this time to cause trouble for the Martial Artists Alliance? Until now, no one had thought that Longao came to cause trouble for the Martial Artists Alliance because of Yuan. Otherwise, who knew what everyone would think? Provoking the Martial Artists Alliance for a woman? Unless there was something wrong with his head? He said, I just said it. You don't have to persuade me. He heaved a deep sigh. Long Fu looked at Xiling and said, Miss Xiling, I believe you can do this. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao's heart skipped a beat. At the same time, he felt happy. Longao knew very well that with Long Fu's personality, he wouldn't say anything rashly. It seemed that Xiling had a way to forcibly break through to the Nirvana realm in 10 days. If he didn't break through to the Nirvana realm, even if he went to the Martial Artists Alliance, he would die. Therefore, he had to break through to the Nirvana realm. As for the consequences, Longao couldn't care less. Was death important? In front of the person he loved, nothing was important, even his own life. He nodded helplessly. Xiling looked at Longao, then at Bai Ling. In the end, he said helplessly, Longao, I do have a way to help you reach the Nirvana realm in 10 days. Before Longao could finish, Xiling continued, But Longao, let me tell you one last thing. Once you choose to do this, even I don't know what the consequences will be. It won't be good anyway. You have to be mentally prepared. Here we go again. Longao suppressed his impatience and said calmly, I've already said that I'll take it no matter what. Xiling didn't say anything else since he had already said that. He nodded. Longao, you're only in the deity realm now. If you want to break through to the Nirvana realm from the deity realm in 10 days, there's only one way, and it's the only way. What way? Longao couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't wait any longer. It's very simple. You can forcefully merge with my sisters and my sword chi of origin. I believe that with your talent and potential, you should be able to reach the Nirvana realm by force. However, it can only last for 6 hours. Once it's over, you'll be devoured by the sword chi of origin. Even the two of us can't do anything about it. Longao was very curious. Before Longao could ask, Xiling seemed to have guessed it. He said, Longao, although you're borrowing our sword chi of origin, the sword chi left in your body won't be under our control after the backlash. Do you understand? I see. 10 days later, in front of the Martial Artists Alliance's main hall, Longao stood on the clouds in the sky. He no longer cared about anything else. Even though he knew that forcefully increasing his strength would lead to very serious consequences for Yuan, Longao no longer cared about anything else. Longao coldly looked down at everyone below. His voice was extremely cold. He said, Tong Tiandi, I'll say it one last time. Hand over Yuan, or I'll massacre the Martial Artists Alliance. If Longao had said this before, everyone would have looked down on him. However, the scene of Longao forcing Shanghai Iya back with a single strike was still vivid in their minds. Could it be that Longao's cultivation had already reached the Nirvana realm? Everyone knew that Shanghai Iya's cultivation had already broken through to the Nirvana realm. Only through Nirvana rebirth could he defeat her in a single strike. Tong Tiandi and the others trembled violently. Could it be that Longao had used some kind of secret technique? After all, it was impossible for Longao to break through to the Nirvana realm from the deity realm in such a short amount of time. He could only use a secret technique. Although he could break through in a short amount of time, the backlash would be extremely terrifying. With such a large increase in strength, the backlash would probably kill him directly. Thinking of this, Tong Tiandi and the others were rather moved. They never thought that Longao would be willing to risk his life for a woman. Such courage was worthy of everyone's respect. Not only Tong Tiandi and the others, but even the people around the ring were moved when they saw this. Now that things had developed to this point, everyone knew that Longao had not only come to provoke the Martial Artists Alliance, but also for a woman. And this woman was the main character of this matchmaking session, the genius disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance, Yuan. Chapter 1272. What could a person who broke through the Nirvana realm with a secret technique do? Even so, Tong Tiandi and the others still did not take Longao seriously. In their opinion, Longao was just breaking through by force. They believed that he would not be able to last long. Moreover, there were 10 Nirvana realm warriors here. Why would they be afraid of a small Longao? They could not embarrass themselves in front of all the young talents in the world. Longao, take Yuan away if you can, but you don't have the chance. Tong Tiandi waved his hand, and the 9 people behind him rushed out. The 8 deputy leaders, including Tang Hao and Shangguan Iya, who had just been defeated by a single move, as well as Ran Tianqing, who had become a subordinate of the Martial Artists Alliance. A total of 9 Nirvana realm warriors. 9 against 1. Seeing this, all the outsiders cursed in their hearts. They had seen shameless people, but they had never seen anyone as shameless as the Martial Artists Alliance. They were shameless to the extreme. Everyone scattered and hid in the dark to watch. What a joke. In a battle between Nirvana realm warriors, just the ripples of their auras could easily destroy everyone around. Looking at Longao, who was standing on the clouds in the sky, Longbo's face turned ugly. Although he had guessed that Longao must have used a secret technique, Longao's actions were also a slap to the Long family's face. Everyone knew Longao was a disciple of the Long family and was only a disciple of a 6th-class family. Now, not only did he create the Dragon Sect, but he was also arrogant everywhere. Humph! The Martial Artists Alliance will kill you to remove a threat to my Long family. Since things had come to this point, Longbo did not care about the Dragon Clan's life. He only wanted to kill Longao. In the sky, the battle between the 10 Nirvana realm warriors could be said to be the most powerful battle in the history of the Sky Martial Continent. Longao, surrender. Looking at the youth in front of him, Tang Hao sighed deeply in his heart. If such a talent could be recruited to the Alliance, it would definitely be beneficial to the Alliance. It was all Shangguan Yi's fault. If it weren't for the grudge between Shangguan Yi and Longao, Longao might have been a member of the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao was more or less grateful to Tang Hao and had a good impression of him. However, the grudge between him and the Martial Artists Alliance had reached a point where one of them had to die. Once he surrendered, there would only be one outcome, which was to be killed by the Martial Artists Alliance. If you want to fight, then let's fight. At this moment, Longao stood in the sky. He was dressed in black and his blood-red hair danced wildly. Who else could it be? Even though he was fighting against 9 people, Longao did not show the slightest fear. It would be a lie to say that he was not moved. Even Shangguan Ye felt a deep sense of conflict when she looked at the youth in front of her. The scene of her being pushed back by one move was still vivid in her mind. Was he really so powerful? Until now, Shangguan Ye was still unwilling to believe it. Tang Hao, you have to remember that you are the deputy chief of the Martial Artists Alliance. With cold eyes, Shangguan Ye was the first to rush out. Tang Hao did not continue to talk nonsense and also shot out. The 9 Nirvana Realm warriors were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had already arrived in front of Longao. Among the 9 people, only Ren Tianqing's cultivation had reached the Rebirth Realm. As for the 8 deputy chiefs, 6 of them had reached the peak of the Nirvana Realm, but they were still one step away. Ha ha ha, good timing. With the help of Bai Ling and Xiling Sword Chi Origin, Longao forcefully raised his cultivation from the Man-God Realm to the Nirvana Rebirth Realm in just 10 days. Longao, who did not care about the consequences, was like a mad lion as he fought against the 9 people in a frenzy. In the void of the 9 heavens, 10 phantoms dashed about chaotically, exchanging blows back and forth. It was simply impossible to see who was who. Under the 9 heavens, everyone was amazed, and they were all full of admiration for Longao. 9 great Nirvana Realm martial artists. Even if it was a Nirvana Realm martial artist who had been reborn, it was believed that he would not dare to fight one against 9. However, Longao did not hesitate. It was still the same sentence. Regardless of whether Longao lived or died in this battle, just this courage alone was enough to make everyone respect him. In the sky, the chi of heaven and earth collided. Fighting 1 against 9, even Longao was losing ground. He wanted to end the battle quickly and kill as many as he could. Longao had come prepared to die at any time. Since that was the case, even if he killed one of them, it would be worth it. Self-created martial technique, Sorrow of Heaven and Earth. Longao had created Sorrow of Heaven and Earth based on the vision of heaven and earth. Although it was powerful, it was not enough to kill opponents of a higher level. However, as he forcefully made a breakthrough in his cultivation, Longao had a feeling that his self-created Sorrow of Heaven and Earth must be very powerful. He could use this opportunity to test it out. With Longao as the center, the surroundings began to spin wildly. A sky-reaching tornado appeared and swept everyone around. In the blink of an eye, the 9 Nirvana Realm warriors were swept in. Even for the people below, the ordinary warriors were all sucked in. Very few could escape. As for the warriors above the great Emperor Realm, they relied on their powerful strength to barely escape the tornado's engulfment. It was terrifying. Was this Longao's strength? Everyone, including Longbo, swallowed their saliva fiercely because they never thought that Longao's strength would be so strong. If they didn't personally experience it, even if they were told, they wouldn't choose to believe it. No one dared to stay in the square. They immediately left as far as they could. Anyway, with their eyesight, they could see the situation of the battle. There was no need for them to stay. If they were caught in the crossfire, who could they find to reason with? In a short while, only a few people were left in the crowd. Looking at the situation, Tong Tiandi's face became gloomier. He did not expect Longao to be so powerful. The main reason why Tong Tiandi was not willing to take action was because he did not have full confidence in killing Longao. He did not know Longao's background, so he let the 9 of them take the lead to test Longao's strength. Once Longao saw a flaw or grasped the opportunity, he believed that Tong Tiandi would not hesitate to take action. The 9 of them were also shocked when they were swept in by the tornado. However, the 9 of them were very confident. If they joined forces, even the Alliance Master would not dare to fight them head-on. Longao, today I'm going to tear you into pieces. You? Longao sneered. The god-slaying sword had already appeared in his hand. Because he had fused 2 Jinling's origin sword chi and forcibly raised his Nirvana realm strength, in this situation, Longao's strongest point was his sword Dao. P.S. I just came back from delivering goods. I got home at 5 o'clock. I first wrote a chapter, then went to eat and drink. After that, I will immediately write. Everyone, please forgive me. I need to support my family. Thank you for your tips and tickets. Chapter 1273. God-Slaying Sword Technique. Longao used spatial teleportation to change his body constantly. The 9 of them were dumbfounded. When Longao was only in the man-god realm, his spatial teleportation was already extremely fast, let alone now. His strength had broken through the nirvana realm, and his speed had increased by dozens of times. What did this mean? Crack. The god-slaying sword in Longao's hand shot out countless sword chi. While the 9 of them were not paying attention, a sword chi had already slashed through a nirvana realm martial artist. The sword chi swallowed the martial artist along with his divine soul. Under such circumstances, Longao had no intention of refining a soul slave or corpse slave. He only had one goal, and that was to kill a nirvana realm martial artist no matter what method he used. Dead? Before the others could react to the death of a deputy chief, Longao's figure had already appeared behind the other deputy chief. He sneered in his heart. With another crack, the other deputy chief was also slashed by a sword chi, and his divine soul was swallowed by the sword chi. In just a few seconds, the 2 Vice Alliance leaders had been killed. At this rate, how long could the remaining 7 Vice Alliance leaders last? The 7 of them looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. They did not continue to attack Longao. Instead, the 7 of them attacked the black tornado together. Rumble. After a loud noise, the huge tornado instantly broke apart. The 7 of them scattered in all directions with endless shock. The 7 of them were frightened to the extreme. The 7 of them had already guessed that Longao must have used a secret technique to possess the strength of the Nirvana realm. They thought that killing Longao would be child's play if the 9 of them worked together. But what was the final result? In less than 3 minutes, 2 Nirvana realm martial artists had been killed. What kind of concept was this? The 7 of them retreated to Tong Tiandi's side with fear written all over their faces. Chief. He waved his hand. There was no need for the 7 of them to say anything. Tong Tiandi naturally knew what had happened. Longao was able to kill 2 deputy chief in a few minutes when the 9 of them worked together. This in itself explained everything. He sneered. Tong Tiandi's face was filled with contempt as he mocked, Longao, let's not beat around the bush. I believe that the strength you displayed today was forcefully raised. If my guess is correct, you won't be able to hold on for long. So what? What does it have to do with you? He was stunned by Longao's words. Tong Tiandi knew that his guess was right. After thinking about it, he felt relieved. After all, Longao dared to come here this time, so he must have disregarded his life and death. Thinking of this, Tong Tiandi's face became increasingly gloomy. If it was the Longao of the past, he could have easily killed him, but what was the result? No matter what method Longao used, Longao's cultivation had officially broken through to the Nirvana realm. The Martial Artists Alliance could not ignore him. If Longao really went crazy, then even if the Martial Artists Alliance could kill Longao, it would be a lose-lose situation for both sides. Could it be that Longao came here with no intention of leaving? If that was the case, then they were in big trouble. 6 hours was more than enough. Tong Tiandi, hand over you Yin, and the grudge between you and me will be written off. Otherwise, I will massacre the Alliance. At that time, even if I die, I will drag the Martial Artists Alliance down with me. No one doubted Longao's words. A person who dared to create the Martial Artists Alliance by himself and kill their disciples. If he was not crazy, what was he? However, things had already come to this point. Could it be that the Martial Artists Alliance would really choose to compromise? If that was the case, then once this matter spread out, the Martial Artists Alliance would lose face. It was believed that everyone in the world would laugh at the Martial Artists Alliance. That was exactly the case. Tong Tiandi and the others knew very well that no matter what happened, Longao could not leave the Martial Artists Alliance alive. Kill. Tong Tiandi gave the order, but no one dared to make a move. After all, the previous lesson was still vivid in their minds. Longao was able to kill 2 deputy leaders in a short 3 minutes, which meant that he had the strength to kill them. Looking at the 7 people beside him, Tong Tiandi wanted to go up and slap each of them. He snorted coldly. The 7 people were shocked. They had no choice but to bite the bullet and rush out again. This time, Tong Tiandi attacked personally. The 8 of them worked together. After just 3 moves, Longao was forced to retreat. This was the first time he fought with Tong Tiandi. Longao was a little surprised. No wonder Tong Tiandi was the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance and a super figure in the top 10 of the Heaven ranking. Although Tong Tiandi was also a Nirvana reborn martial artist, he was still a few times stronger than Longao. Longao knew that with his current strength, even if he forcefully broke through the Nirvana reborn, it would be difficult for him to defeat Tong Tiandi. Was he really going to die in the Martial Artists Alliance this time? If that's the case, then don't blame me for being merciless. I'll massacre the Alliance. Longao took 3 steps back. Then, dragon roars could be heard continuously. One dragon roar after another. Before anyone could react, giant dragons had already appeared in the void of the Martial Arts Alliance. Giant dragons covered the sky. At a glance, there were giant dragons everywhere. There were at least 500 of them, and all of them were divine dragons. When Longao came to the Martial Art Alliance this time, he already knew that he would most likely meet with misfortune. He would not be able to force a bloodbath in the Martial Art Alliance. As such, he directly brought 500 divine dragon corpse slaves. Not only that, but the 10 elders of the 9 Netherbird clan also appeared in front of the main hall. 500 divine dragon corpse slaves were equivalent to 500 supreme Dao martial artists. 10 elder corpse slaves were equivalent to 10 supreme Dao martial artists. Even if they were not as strong as the Martial Artists Alliance, they were all immortal. Unless there was a great disparity in strength, no one could destroy these corpse slaves. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. All the corpse slaves rushed out and swarmed into the Martial Artists Alliance. In just a few seconds, screams came from all directions of the Martial Artists Alliance, resounding between heaven and earth. Hearing the screams, Tong Tiandi and the others were furious. Longao was hurting the foundation of the Martial Artists Alliance. With 500 divine dragons rushing out, the Martial Artists Alliance would suffer heavy losses in no time. At that time, the Martial Artists Alliance would fall behind the other 9 super forces. Longao, I'm going to tear you into pieces. With a furious roar, Tong Tiandi and the others attacked Longao faster and faster. After 30 moves, Longao was hit. His body flew out like a kite with a broken string. In the air, Longao stopped abruptly. However, he spat out blood. His face was pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Chapter 1274. With Tong Tiandi's strength, Longao knew very well that it was impossible for him to kill Tong Tiandi and the others. He would not give up until he took Yuan away. Screams continued to rise and fall. In just a few minutes, at least 1,000 people from the Martial Artists Alliance were slaughtered. At this rate, even with the strength of the Martial Artists Alliance, the Martial Artists Alliance would be wiped out in a day at most. They were coming aggressively. The 7 of you. Stop them. Alliance Master, where's Longao? Leave him to me. After the short fight just now, Tong Tiandi had figured out Longao's strength. Although he had forcefully broken through to the Nirvana rebirth realm, his true strength was still far from his own. Tong Tiandi had full confidence that even if it was just one person, it was also enough to deal with Longao. The 7 of them nodded and headed toward the Martial Artists Alliance. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared without a trace. The 7 of them were very clear. Longao had come prepared this time. He had brought 500 divine dragons and 10 supreme Dao martial artists. If this continued, even if the Martial Artists Alliance could defeat him, they would suffer heavy losses. The strength of the 7 of them was needless to say. Nirvana martial artists. The 7 of them were very confident that they could defeat all the divine dragons. They split into 2 groups. Tong Tiandi would deal with Longao, while the 7 Nirvana martial artists would deal with the 500 divine dragons and 10 supreme Dao martial artists. At this point, Longao could no longer care about the 500 divine dragon corpse slaves and the 10 elder corpse slaves. Although corpse slaves were known to be immortal, it also depended on the situation. The 7 of them were Nirvana martial artists. They definitely had the strength to destroy the corpse slaves. In Longao's opinion, all the corpse slaves added together were nothing in front of Yuan. Longao didn't really want to fight to the death with the Martial Artists Alliance. The reason he came to the Martial Artists Alliance this time was to take Yuan away. As for the grudge between him and the Martial Artists Alliance, he would deal with it later. The Martial Artists Alliance was able to become one of the top 10 forces because of its strength and background. Gradually, Longao's eyes began to turn red. A cold and bloody aura emanated from his body, which instantly covered the entire Martial Artists Alliance. In order to save Yuan, Longao was defeated by Tong Tiendi. In his anxiousness, he was taken advantage of by the power of the blood pool. Master, wake up quickly. In the dragon seal space, Long Fu was shocked when he felt the entire blood pool tremble violently. Others might not know what had happened, but how could Long Fu not know? His master had already been controlled by the blood pool once. If he had not borrowed external power the second time, he believed that his master would have already become the blood pool's killing tool. But this time, once the blood pool successfully invaded Master's body, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the Godslayer's sword, Bai Ling and Xiling didn't know what was going on. The 2 Jianling were extremely depressed, because no matter what kind of danger they encountered, Long Ao would seal the Godslayer's sword immediately, not giving them any chance to come out. The 2 Jianling couldn't do anything. After all, Long Ao had gradually merged with the Godslayer's sword. What others couldn't do, Long Ao could do easily. There were only 2 ways to break the seal of the Godslayer's sword by force. The first way was for the 2 of them to recover their original strength. If they worked together, they would definitely be able to break the seal of the Godslayer's sword. The second way was for Long Ao to die. The seal of the Godslayer's sword would be much weaker. With the 2 Jianling working together, they would still be able to break the seal of the Godslayer's sword. In fact, there was a third way, and that was for Long Ao to break the seal of the Godslayer's sword. But was that possible? If it was possible, Long Ao wouldn't have to seal the 2 Jianling by force. As for Long Fu's words, Long Ao acted as if he didn't hear a thing. At this moment, Long Ao's eyes were completely red. The bloody aura emitted from his body became more and more terrifying. Feeling the sudden bloody aura, Tong Tiendi's face became more and more ugly. He didn't know what was happening to Long Ao. Could it be because of the backlash? Other than this, Tong Tiendi really couldn't think of what was happening to Long Ao at this moment. If that was the case, then he didn't even need to do anything. He believed that Long Ao would die on his own. But what was the result? Kill. Long Ao seemed to have lost his mind. His entire body was occupied by the blood pool. The power of the blood pool had already entered Long Ao's body. The invasion was successful. From the beginning to the end, Long Ao didn't know what was happening. Long Ao never thought that he would be taken advantage of by the blood pool in the end. In Long Ao's opinion, after forcefully raising his Nirvana realm for 6 hours, the backlash would be the sword essence and not the blood pool. If Long Ao knew about this in advance, he didn't know if this would happen. No matter what, it was too late to say anything now. Long Ao's aura continued to multiply, becoming more and more powerful. Originally, Tong Tiendi thought that Long Ao would die from the backlash, but in the end, not only did Long Ao not die from the backlash, his aura became even more powerful. Could it be that Long Ao's strength would become even more powerful? Tong Tiendi was very afraid of Long Ao. Although he knew that Long Ao would definitely die from the backlash, what would he do if Long Ao's strength really surpassed his during this period of time? What would happen to the Martial Artists Alliance? There was no time to lose. Tong Tiendi definitely didn't want to hesitate. He rushed out once again, clenched his palms into fists, and fiercely smashed them out. The corner of Tong Tiendi's mouth slowly curled into a sneer. Above Long Ao's head, a ball of blood suddenly appeared and crazily spun. In just a few seconds, Long Ao's strength had directly tripled, and he also fiercely smashed his fist out. When the 2 fists collided, a terrifying shockwave burst out. With Tong Tiendi's strength, even if Long Ao's strength was tripled, he might not be a match for him. However, Long Ao's situation was completely different. The power of the blood pool had invaded his body. In other words, Longao could be considered to have borrowed 1% of the blood pool's power. But even so, Longao's fist had directly sent Tong Tiandi flying. One fist was simply unable to kill Tong Tiandi. Forcibly stopping himself, Tong Tiandi's expression was extremely ugly. This was because he really couldn't understand how Longao's strength could grow to such an extent in just a few seconds. If he didn't personally experience it, he would find it hard to believe. Longao, kill. After being invaded by the blood pool, Longao was completely unconscious. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill. No matter who it was, he would kill. At this moment, not to mention Tong Tiandi, even if Longao's family members were standing in front of him, he wouldn't hesitate to attack. It was as if he wouldn't even recognize his own family. This was the power of the blood pool. This was the terror of the blood pool. P.S. Tomorrow is the climax of the plot. Not daring to continue fighting, he immediately turned around and fled. Would Longao let Tong Tiandi off? Longao's current speed was already extremely fast. Moreover, he had the help of spatial teleportation. After a few teleportations, Longao's body was already in front of Tong Tiandi. A cruel smile appeared on his face, as if the target in front of him was already his prey. Go to hell. Just as he finished speaking, a terrifying bloody aura suddenly appeared above Longao's head. In an instant, it enveloped the entire area. No matter who it was, everyone who was fighting stopped and stared blankly at Longao, who was standing in the sky, dressed in black, with a head of blood-red hair that danced wantonly, and a pair of bloodshot eyes that reflected a cold, icy light. At this moment, Longao was like the god of death that had descended. Above Longao's head, there was a huge pool of blood that rolled in and out like a vast ocean. What was going on? Looking at the scene in front of them, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Tong Tiandi was shocked. Who exactly was Longao? More than 400 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves and 10 Elder Corpse slaves all disappeared and returned to the Dragon Seal space. As for the people from the Martial Artists Alliance, none of them dared to move. They didn't know why, but everyone had a strange feeling that if they moved, they would be killed by the bloody aura. Under such circumstances, who would dare to move? Seeing that all the corpse slaves had disappeared, the 7 of them returned to Tong Tiandi's side. 8 Nirvana Realm martial artists released a powerful aura of heaven and earth at the same time. Under the layers, the power was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. The intention of the 8 of them was very simple. They wanted to borrow the power of the 8 of them to resist the bloody aura released by Longao. The 8 of them were very confident. But what was the result? The 8 of them did not expect that the aura of heaven and earth that they released together would be swallowed by the bloody aura in an instant. They did not even have the chance to react. What was going on? The 8 of them looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This situation had never happened before. Alliance leader, what should we do now? Shangguan Iya and the others were terrified to the extreme, because they could clearly sense the horrifying power that was being emitted from the opponent's body. It was truly abnormal. Not to mention one person, even if 8 of them joined hands, they still wouldn't be a match for the opponent. The 8 of them knew very well that Longao must have used some kind of secret technique. The backlash that would come later would not be something that Longao could resist. But in the current situation, no matter what kind of backlash Longao would suffer in the future, what should the Martial Artists Alliance do now? The powerful strength that Longao had displayed had already explained everything. He was strong enough to defeat the Martial Artists Alliance. If this continued, the Martial Artists Alliance would definitely be destroyed. From then on, there would be no Martial Artists Alliance in the Tianwu continent. The 7 of them could not wait. After all, they were the vice alliance leaders of the Martial Artists Alliance. They could not leave alone. If Longao died, the Martial Artists Alliance would definitely not let them go. Moreover, they did not want to see the Martial Artists Alliance destroyed. What should they do? Tong Tiandi's mind was spinning rapidly. Longao's strength was not something that they could fight against. What should they do? After thinking for a while, Tong Tiandi could not think of a good way to deal with Longao. Alliance leader, why don't we invite the old ancestor? Tong Tiandi waved his hand. How could he not want to invite the old ancestor? Back then, the old ancestor had made a rule that no one was to disturb him no matter what happened. Others might not know, but how could he not know? All of you, go to hell. Longao did not want to waste any more time. The blood pool above his head was already moving towards the 8 of them. At the same time, Longao's body also rushed out. The 8 of them were done for. This was something that everyone could guess. After all, Longao's strength had reached an abnormal level. But what was the result? Longao's body, which had just rushed out, bounced back. Even the blood pool had disappeared. Chapter 1276. Seeing Longao flying back, Tong Tiandi and the others were overjoyed. You're too presumptuous. The Martial Artists Alliance is not a place for you to be presumptuous. An old and majestic voice was heard. At this moment, Tong Tiandi, Shanghai, and the other disciples of the Martial Artists Alliance were all pleasantly surprised when they heard the old and majestic voice. Without any warning, everyone, including the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Tiandi, knelt down toward the sky. Because at that moment, an old man appeared in front of Longao in the 9 heavens. He wore a gray robe and had 3 long strands of beard. He gave people a feeling of immortality. Greetings, ancestor. Countless disciples of the Martial Artists Alliance shouted in unison. Their faces were full of respect. The current Longao had already woken up. Looking at the old man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao already knew what had just happened. Until now, he still had some lingering fear. This did not mean that he was afraid of the old man in front of him, but he was afraid of the corrosion of the blood pool. Longao did not expect that he would be devoured by the blood pool. Fortunately, the old man appeared in time. Otherwise, he would have been devoured by the blood pool. The consequences would be unimaginable. Who are you? Tong Zun, from the Martial Artists Alliance. Tong Zun? The old man in front of him was Tong Zun? Longao was not unfamiliar with the name Tong Zun. Most likely, no one in the entire Tianwu continent would be unfamiliar with the name. Tong Zun was the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance. He was also the founder of the Martial Artists Alliance. He established the Martial Artists Alliance and led the Martial Artists Alliance to become one of the top 10 martial artists. It was not hard to imagine how powerful Tong Zun was. Tong Zun was a super existence comparable to the 5 Elements Patriarch. Tong Zun was not dead. Longao also didn't expect that the old ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, hadn't died. Instead, he had appeared in front of him. It seemed that the so-called Tianwu continent wasn't as simple as it seemed. Senior Tong, thank you. Thank you? Longao thanked the ancestor? Hearing Longao's words, everyone below was completely dumbfounded. None of them knew what was going on. Just now, the old ancestor had clearly repelled Longao. Longao should have been furious, but what was the result? Thank you, Longao said. In the distance, everyone was shocked to see Tong Zun, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, appear. After all, everyone knew what Tong Zun's appearance meant. Tianwu continent. Other than the clairvoyant master and the heavenly Tao, Tong Zun was one of the strongest people. Everyone knew that Tong Zun had fallen. Not only had Tong Zun, the old ancestor of the Martial Art Alliance, fallen, but all the old ancestors of the 10 forces had fallen. Longbo looked at Longao and Tong Zun in the 9 heavens. His heart was in turmoil. The ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance was not dead. He was even forced out by Longao. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Longbo didn't stay any longer. He immediately turned around and prepared to tell his father about this. Longao's life was no longer important to him. What was important was that he had to send the news that Tong Zun was still alive back to the Long clan as soon as possible. In the 9 heavens, looking at the young man in front of him, Tong Zun seemed to be surprised. He asked, "Thank me for what?" "Senior Tong, I was devoured by the blood pool. If you hadn't appeared in time, I'm afraid I would have become a killing machine." Longao was still afraid of Tong Zun. After all, Tong Zun was a legend. Longao was almost certain that Tong Zun's strength was much stronger than Tong Tiandi's. He had just been devoured by the blood pool. His strength had skyrocketed. Even if Tong Tiandi and the other four joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for him. However, Tong Zun defeated the blood pool's devouring strength with just one move. One could only imagine how terrifying Tong Zun's strength was. However, no matter what happened, he had to take Yuan away from the Martial Artists Alliance. Even if Tong Zun, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, was here, he wouldn't change his mind. It's okay. I like to help people. Tong Zun's face darkened. He said coldly, Longao, do you know where this is? Martial Artists Alliance. Nonsense, Tong Zun cursed in his heart. Why did he ask when he already knew the answer? It was his first time seeing such a shameless person. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Tong Zun. So you know that this is the Martial Artists Alliance. If that's the case, do you know the consequences of being so presumptuous here? So what if I know? So what if I don't know? Everyone's expression changed when they heard Longao's words. No one had expected that Longao would dare to talk back to the ancestor. Shanghai Ye shouted angrily, Longao, who do you think you are? How dare you? Before Shanghai Ye could finish his words, a slap was heard. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw Shanghai Ye being slapped away. No one knew why Tong Zun would slap Shanghai Ye away for no reason. Even Shanghai Ye could not believe it. Shanghai Ye fell to the ground with a thud. He struggled to get up and endured the pain in his body. His face was pale and his body was on the verge of collapsing. However, Shanghai Ye did not dare to say anything. After all, the person who had just slapped him away was the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance. He was a person that no one dared to offend. Useless trash. The Martial Artists Alliance is being so presumptuous because of a piece of trash. You all deserve to die. Everyone, including Tong Tiandi, lowered their heads in shame. Just as Tong Zun had said, the Martial Artists Alliance was one of the 10 great forces. It was very embarrassing that Longao had treated the Martial Artists Alliance this way. At the same time, everyone was extremely worried. If anyone else had said such a thing, they would be seeking death. However, Tong Zun was different. In the Martial Artists Alliance, no one dared to go against Tong Zun. Even if you were slapped to death, no one would stand up for you, including Tong Tiandi. Longao, leave one of your arms and one of your legs. Cripple your strength. Then you can get out of here. If they did not kill Longao, Tong Tiandi and the others were very anxious. However, after thinking about it, they felt relieved. After all, Longao's arms and legs were chopped off. His strength was crippled. He was basically a cripple. Even if he was left alive, he would not be of much use. No one doubted Tong Zun's strength and dignity. After all, Tong Zun's status and strength were obvious. Even Tong Tiandi was like a child in front of Tong Zun, not to mention Longao. Longao had just witnessed Tong Zun's strength. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. However, did he really want to do that? P.S. 10 chapters will be released tomorrow. Xiaoju will stay up late tonight. Chapter 1277. Longao laughed. Strictly speaking, Longao was amused by Tong Zun's words. Tong Zun, are you out of your mind? F***ck hearing Longao openly insulting the old ancestor. The people from all directions all cursed angrily. Tong Zun waved his hand. Tong Zun was not angry at all. Instead, he laughed. I'm very impressed by your courage. As soon as he finished speaking, Tong Zun disappeared. It was definitely not teleportation. Longao was very clear that the reason why Tong Zun was able to teleport was because Tong Zun's strength was too strong and his speed was extremely fast. Tong Zun was shocked. Before Longao could react, his body had already been ruthlessly smashed out. Tong Zun did not use all of his strength in that punch. Otherwise, Longao's bones would have been shattered even if he was not smashed to death. That was Tong Zun's strength. Everyone held their breaths and stared blankly at the 9 heavens when they saw the powerful strength displayed by the old ancestor. With Tong Zun's strength, Longao would definitely die. That was the thought that popped into everyone's mind. Longao, as long as you're willing to pledge allegiance to the Martial Artists Alliance, I'll give you a chance. I'll spare your life and let you be our lackey. Damn it. Longao spat out a mouthful of blood. If not for his strong willpower, he would have collapsed. Tong Zun's strength was unfathomable. They were both in the Nirvana realm, but the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Longao felt like he was a child standing in front of an adult when he stood in front of Tong Zun. Very good. Very good. In the next second, Tong Zun disappeared again. His speed was even faster than before. Tong Zun could not even see his shadow. This time, Longao was prepared. Before Tong Zun could move, Longao had already disappeared from where he was with teleportation. Since then, Tong Zun's fist struck empty air. This time, Tong Zun wasn't the only one who was stunned. Everyone else was dumbfounded. Even with Tong Zun's speed and strength, the punch didn't hit its target. Was that even possible? Many people rubbed their eyes dramatically, thinking that they had seen wrongly. However, the truth was right in front of them. When everyone recognized the truth, their overestimation of Longao increased by another level. Ha ha ha. Looking at the empty space in front of him, Tong Zun suddenly laughed crazily. Behind Tong Zun, Longao glared at Tong Zun coldly. Deep down, he was extremely fearful. He knew very well that if he hadn't used the spatial teleportation technique in advance, he would have been hit by Tong Zun. With such speed and strength, how many people in the world would be able to evade it? Too strong. Longao had a feeling that Tong Zun's strength was comparable to the heavenly Das. The only thing he lacked was source energy. However, the source energy of the Tianwu continent was already controlled by the heavenly Das. If anyone wanted to obtain it, they would be killed by the heavenly Das. No one was willing to provoke the heavenly Das. Longao, it seems that the spatial artifact in your hand came from outside. Spatial artifact? Even Tong Zun thought that he had a spatial artifact. Longao couldn't imagine what would happen if he told them the truth. What bullsh** spatial artifact? The only reason he could teleport was because of his bloodline and the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. Only he could use such a divine ability in this world. Tong Zun probably hadn't even heard of it. Longao naturally wouldn't tell Tong Zun the truth. If Tong Zun said that he had a spatial artifact, then he had one. What does it have to do with you? Tong Zun wasn't angry at all. He smiled and said, "It seems that you have a lot of secrets. Longao, you won't be able to leave the Martial Artists Alliance alive today. As for your secrets, I'll search your soul later." Search his soul? Longao was shocked when he heard Tong Zun's words. Perhaps others didn't know what a soul search was, but Longao knew it very well. He knew how to search one's soul as well. The meaning of a soul search was very simple. It was to search one's soul in the shortest time possible after death. Longao sneered in his heart. Do you think it's possible to search my soul? Longao had already decided that even if he died, his soul would be devoured by the blood pool. He couldn't let Tong Zun search his soul. Are you scared? Longao shook his head helplessly. His face was full of disdain and contempt. He said mockingly, "I was wondering what kind of big shot the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance was. Now it seems that you're just also. No, you're still a little invincible." What was it? Everyone was very curious. They did not know what the point that Longao was talking about was. This is the first time I've seen someone so thick-skinned since ancient times. You can say that you're invincible. Tong Zun, why don't you stop calling yourself Tong Zun? Just call yourself Shameless Tong. What do you think? Poochie. At that moment, someone let out a laugh. However, before that person could finish laughing, he was already stupefied on the spot. With a plop, that person's body directly fell to the ground, making the most intimate contact with the ground. It was Tong Tiendi, the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance. What a joke. Longao was obviously insulting the ancestor. How dare this person laugh? Wasn't he laughing at the ancestor? If he didn't kill such a person, It was hard for Tong Tiendi to imagine whether the old ancestor would vent his anger on him. After all, the old ancestor was already very angry about the matter of Longao. Tong Tiendi didn't dare to continue provoking the ancestor. Who knew if the ancestor would be angry? Longao, I'd like to see who gave you such courage today. From the beginning, Tong Zun didn't take Longao seriously. So what if Longao could teleport? In front of absolute power, everything was nothing. This time, Tong Zun's body moved again. However, in the next second, Longao's body disappeared again. This time, Longao didn't continue to disappear. Instead, he disappeared completely. Huh. Tong Zun was surprised. He sensed the aura fluctuations around him and realized that Longao seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Even he couldn't sense Longao's existence. Could it be that Longao used a spatial artifact to do it? The more it was so, the more interested Tong Zun was in the spatial artifact in Longao's hands. The fact that Longao could disappear for such a long time and escape his detection already showed how powerful the spatial artifact was. It would be a lie to say that he didn't want it. Chapter 1278. In the Dragon Seal Space. Longao's face was gloomy. The main reason why he could enter the Dragon Seal Space was because Tong Zun did not know that he could disappear. If Tong Zun had known, would he have been able to enter the Dragon Seal Space so easily? Tong Zun aside, Shangguan Yi alone could easily interfere with the space ripples around him. 6 hours. He only had 6 hours. Once 6 hours passed, his cultivation would return to the level of a deity. Not only that, if he forcefully increased his strength, he would definitely suffer a backlash after 6 hours. By then, he might not even be able to survive, let alone save Yuan. Longao was extremely frustrated. He had never thought that he would suffer a backlash from the blood pool when he came to the Martial Artists Alliance. He even encountered the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, personally. Tong Zun's strength was obvious. After the battle, Longao knew that even if he forcefully increased his strength and suffered a backlash from the blood pool, he would not be Tong Zun's match. What should he do? He calculated the time and realized that he had less than 4 hours left. Master, that was too dangerous. If Tong Zun did not help, you would have been devoured by the blood pool. At that moment, Longao could not care about anything else. As long as he could take Yuan away, he was willing to give up his life. His face was extremely pale. He coughed twice. Longao was already injured after being hit by Tong Zun. However, under such circumstances, Longao could not care about anything else. Long Fu, is there any way for me to defeat Tong Zun? He forcefully swallowed his saliva. Long Fu shrugged helplessly and sighed. I believe that you have experienced Tong Zun's strength. Even if the two old masters were here, they might not be able to defeat Tong Zun, let alone you. Hearing these words, Longao also jumped in fright. He knew that Tong Zun was powerful, but he did not expect that even Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon would not be able to defeat Tong Zun. One could only imagine how powerful Tong Zun was. Is there really no other way? He shook his head. Master, I know what you're thinking, but I can only tell you that there's nothing I can do. Longao was very clear that Long Fu must have done his best. Otherwise, Long Fu would not be like this. Was he going to give up just like that? If it was something else, Longao might not take the risk. After all, Tong Zun's strength was obvious. But this matter. Before coming here, Longao had already disregarded life and death. Even if he had to sacrifice himself, he would take Yuan away. It was almost impossible for Tong Zun, Tong Tiendi, and the others to take someone away from the Martial Artists Alliance. Outside the Dragon Seal Space, Tong Tiendi carefully came to Tong Zun's side and whispered, Ancestor, Longao's spatial divine device can disappear for a long time. We've suffered a few losses before. Tong Tiendi did not need to say it. Tong Zun already knew. His face was gloomy and as ugly as it could get. Tong Zun did not expect that Longao would disappear without a trace under his watch. This matter would definitely spread. How would he keep his face then? Sky Emperor, Among all the leaders of the alliance, I thought you would be the best, but you've disappointed me." Tong Tiandi was shocked when he heard that. He did not dare to say anything. The real leader of the Martial Artists Alliance was not him. It was Tong Zun, the ancestor in front of him. Tong Tiandi knew very well that as long as the ancestor said something, his position as the alliance leader would come to an end. "I've been in seclusion for so many years. I've never interfered with the affairs of the alliance. If I hadn't appeared today, wouldn't the alliance have been slaughtered by Longao?" Tong Tiandi still did not dare to say anything. What the ancestor said was absolutely true. If not for the old ancestor's timely appearance, the alliance would have fallen into a state of eternal damnation. Longao was too unpredictable. Before this, no one would have believed that Longao could be so powerful. "Ancestor, what should we do now?" Longao's cultivation was forcefully increased by using a secret skill. "I don't think he can last more than 4 hours." Tong Zun thought for a while and asked, "What's going on?" Tong Tiandi did not dare to lie. He immediately told him about the grudge between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance. For a woman? Tong Zun was a little angry when he heard that Longao came here for a woman. Did the Martial Artists Alliance have nothing better to do than provoke such a malefic person for a woman? Before Tong Zun could say anything, Tong Tiandi said, "Ancestor, Yu Yin's physique is not ordinary. It's exactly what the ancestor needed." "Really?" Tong Zun's face was full of surprise. He had been waiting for this opportunity for more than 10,000 years. However, Tong Zun's face turned cold again. He said coldly, "Since you found her, why didn't you report it earlier?" "Ancestor, I've been helping Yu Yin break through to the Nirvana realm. I wanted to use Yu Yin to kill Longao and get rid of all future troubles. I didn't expect Longao to become like this. As for Yu Yin, I've lost my mind. Do you know that you'll be in a lot of trouble if you do this?" "Ancestor, of course I know. However, Longao is too unpredictable," Tong Tiandi said immediately. He was afraid of this. He had been struggling for a long time whether he should do this or not. However, when he thought of Longao, he clenched his teeth and let it go. Tong Zun, who was about to get angry, seemed to have thought of something. He took a deep breath and said, "You've done the right thing. Since you've helped me find the physique, I won't pursue this matter. However, Longao hasn't left yet. We must find him as soon as possible." Tong Zun knew that with Longao's current strength, even if he could only last for 2 hours, it would be a terrifying matter. Tong Zun was not worried at all if they did it openly. However, he was afraid that Longao would play dirty. At that time, it would be impossible to guard against him. "Ancestor, we can't pinpoint Longao's location. I'll ask for my old friend." Tong Tiandi heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that the ancestor's old friend was an old friend. Others might not know, but as the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, he knew very well what the ancestor's old friend meant. No matter where Longao was hiding, even if he used a spatial artifact, as long as the ancestor's old friend was there, he could easily pinpoint Longao's location. With this, Longao could be said to have nowhere to hide. There was only the path of death. P.S. Copy of the first chapter. Chapter 1279. In less than half an hour, the news of Longao causing a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance had spread throughout the Tianwu continent. Everyone who received the news turned pale with fright. Was Longao out of his mind? Why did he cause a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance? Was he tired of living? The reason why Longao was able to leave the Martial Artists Alliance was because of the arrival of the Three Master. Otherwise, Longao would be dead by now. As the saying goes, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Longao did not learn his lesson. Everyone thought that Longao was crazy. Everyone thought that Longao would definitely die after causing a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance. But what was the result? Not only did Longao cause a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance, but he also fought against 9 people at the same time. He fought against the 8 deputy leaders of the Martial Artists Alliance and Ren Tianqing of the Blood Soul Valley. Not only that, in a situation where Longao was fighting 1 against 9, in just a few minutes, he had consecutively killed 2 Vice Alliance Masters. What did that mean? However, the 8 deputy leaders of the Martial Art Alliance were all true Nirvana Realm martial artists. Including Ren Tianqing, there were 9 Nirvana Realm martial artists in total. Longao was only a Supreme Realm warrior. How could he fight against 9 people at the same time? Was that true? No one believed it when the news spread. After all, it was too unbelievable. With Longao's strength, he might not even be able to win in a one-on-one fight, let alone fighting against 9 people at the same time. But the truth was right in front of them. They had to believe it. An hour after the news of Longao causing a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance and killing 2 deputy leaders spread, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, who had died, suddenly appeared and defeated Longao with one move. The Tianwu continent was in an uproar. Tong Zun was not dead. The ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance was not dead. What exactly happened? Everyone was deeply shocked and scared out of their wits. However, in everyone's opinion, since Tong Zun, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, had personally come and defeated Longao in one move, then Longao would definitely die. But what was the result? Not only did Longao not die, but he also continued to insult Tong Zun in front of everyone. Upon hearing this news, everyone had only one reaction, and that was that Longao was crazy. Not to mention Longao, even the master of the 10 directions wouldn't dare to act like this. Even he had to be respectful before Tong Zun. While questioning Longao, everyone also began to admire Longao. If a person dared to break into the Martial Artists Alliance by himself, he would be crazy. If a person dared to make trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance twice, he would be a madman among madmen. This courage alone was enough to make him look down on the world. Who would dare to make trouble at the Martial Artists Alliance twice? Not to mention twice, they wouldn't even dare to do it once. In just 2 hours, Longao's fame skyrocketed by tens of thousands of times. At this moment, it could be said that there was no one in the Tianwu continent who did not know Longao. Longao's name was completely known throughout the world. In other words, whether Longao won or lost, whether he was alive or dead, it didn't matter anymore. Longao's courage and craziness had completely convinced everyone. First on the Earth leaderboard. According to Longao's strength, it was already good enough for him to be in the top 10 of the Earth leaderboard. But now, Longao was directly ranked first on the Earth leaderboard, and no one dared to say anything. Longao's strength was there for all to see. Regardless of what method Longao had used, who could kill 2 Nirvana Realm warriors consecutively under the age of 40, Longao did it. Longao's strength was enough to be ranked first on the Earth leaderboard. But now, the person ranked first on the Earth leaderboard was willing to give up his position because even he wouldn't dare to fight against a Nirvana Realm warrior alone, let alone 1 against 9 and killing 2 Nirvana Realm warriors. Earth leaderboard's number 1. At this moment, Longao was not only ranked first on the Earth leaderboard, he was also ranked in the top 30 of the Heaven leaderboard. As for his specific ranking, it had not been confirmed yet. The Heaven leaderboard was the most valuable ranking of the super experts in the entire Tianwu continent. It was not an ordinary difficulty to enter the Heaven leaderboard. Even the top 3 of the Earth leaderboard could only be at the bottom of the Heaven leaderboard. One could imagine what kind of super experts were in the top 30 of the Heaven leaderboard. But in the end, no one objected, because everyone recognized that Longao could be ranked in the top 30 of the Heaven leaderboard. It wasn't just strength, just this courage was enough to show disdain for everyone. Longao didn't know that he was ranked first on the Earth leaderboard and top 30 on the Heaven leaderboard. If he knew, Longao would probably be scared silly. He was only a man god, but he could be ranked on both leaderboards. Not to mention others, even he himself wouldn't believe it. No matter what, Longao was completely famous this time, and his fame spread throughout the entire Tianwu continent. The other 9 major powers, the Great Clan, Martial Artists Alliance, Wanshou Sect, Heaven and Earth Sect, 5 Elements Sect, Wanzhan School, Sword Sect, Purple Thunder Sect, and Black Heaven Sect. Although they were surprised by Longao's actions, what made them feel the most inconceivable was that the old ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, didn't fall. Instead, he appeared and defeated Longao in one move. The 9 major powers knew very well what it meant that Tongzun didn't fall. Tongzun's appearance might be a good thing for the Martial Artists Alliance, but it definitely wasn't a good thing for the 9 major powers. This was because the presence of a super expert would raise the status of the Martial Artists Alliance by a lot. Of course, the 9 major powers didn't want to see such a thing happen. But what could they do? Go up to him? Or fight against Tongzun together? These were all unrealistic questions. After all, Tongzun and the Martial Artists Alliance's strength was obvious, and the 9 major powers couldn't join hands. The Long family was the first to give up. The reason was very simple. The Long family couldn't even take care of themselves now. The Way of Heaven sealed the Dragon Clan to target the Dragon Clan and the Long family. If it were anyone else, the Long family wouldn't be afraid. But only the Way of Heaven. The Long family couldn't do anything. They could only wait obediently and see what the Way of Heaven wanted to do. Long family gave up. The other 8 major powers also gave up one by one. However, the 9 major powers were very concerned about the Martial Artists Alliance. They all sent experts to investigate the latest situation of the Martial Artists Alliance. With Tongzun's appearance, Longao would definitely die. This was something that everyone thought was certain. But what was the result? Longao didn't die. Not only did he not die, but he also disappeared. It was exactly the same as last time, but this time, he disappeared right under Tongzun's nose. Perhaps no one would believe such a thing. However, the truth was right in front of them. Longao did disappear, and he did disappear right under Tongzun's nose. They had no choice but to believe it. In the following time, everyone was guessing why Longao suddenly chose to cause trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance. After all, the Martial Artists Alliance was holding a blind date in the arena. Could it be that Longao was doing this for the blind date in the arena? Chapter 1280. The result of his conjecture was that Longao had caused a ruckus in the Martial Arts Alliance this time because of Wang Yuyin, the pig trotter of the Martial Artists Alliance's arena. Was it worth it to do that for a woman? Countless young men and women were impressed by Longao's wildness. A man who dared to love and hate and would go through fire and water for love was worthy of respect. However, there were also many people who thought that Longao was simply an idiot. You could say that. There were all sorts of different opinions. At the Martial Artists Alliance, the Martial Arts Alliance was now locked down within a radius of a few thousand meters. No one was allowed to enter without permission. Those who disobeyed the order would be killed without mercy. In the 9th heaven, old friend, I hope you can help me find this man. He transmitted Longao's energy into his old friend's body. Tongzun had no doubt about his old friend's strength. Tongzun's old friend was a giant wolf. There was only one heavenly wolf in the world. Its entire body was pure black, and its eyes were cold. Just by standing there without moving, one could feel the wildness and coldness coming from the heavenly wolf. Skywolf's strength was obvious. Tongzun saw Skywolf as an old friend. It was imaginable how powerful it was. Don't worry. Skywolf had already reached the Nirvana realm. It was easy for him to speak human language. He didn't hesitate at all. Skywolf knew his old friend was anxious, so he started to act with the energy Tongzun gave him. Skywolf's greatest power was to lock down all creatures with his energy. He could do that even if you had a divine spatial device. In just a few minutes, he's here. Skywolf pointed at the space and said confidently. It was empty. Others wouldn't believe it, but Tongzun trusted Skywolf's ability. If Skywolf said Longao was here, then Longao must be here. Old friend, do you have any ideas? It's hard. Lock down this place first. I'll think of something. Just in case, Tongzun and Sirius made their moves as well. The man and the wolf worked together to completely seal the space around the dragon seal. In the dragon seal space. Master, the dragon seal has been locked down. You must not go out. Otherwise, Tongzun will definitely find out. He was shocked. Longao had always had confidence in the dragon seal. No matter who it was, even if it was the heavenly Tao, even if he entered the dragon seal space, he believed that the heavenly Tao would have a hard time discovering him. If that was the case, how did Tongzun do it? Before Longao could ask, Long Fu seemed to know that Longao would ask, so he said, "Master, you don't know, but Tong Zun has a powerful mythical beast by his side. It's called Sky Wolf." Next, Long Fu roughly explained the Sky Wolf's mystique and strength. After hearing it, Longao sighed. Tong Zun's strength was already strong enough. Now, there was Sky Wolf, whose strength was comparable to Tong Zun's. With the man and the wolf working together, it was obvious how terrifying their strength was. Just like what Long Fu said, with the current situation, he definitely couldn't go out. Otherwise, he would definitely be attacked by Tong Zun as soon as he stepped out of the dragon seal space. Do I have to stay here forever? Counting the time, there was only half of the 6 hours left. If he couldn't take Yuin away in the remaining 3 hours, he would have no chance. What should he do? Longao knew that he had to take Yuin away before he was attacked. At the last moment, he would do it even if it was risky. Under such circumstances, Longao couldn't care about anything else. With no other choice, Longao could only communicate with the deity blade and the dragon seal space to bring Bai Ling and Xiling into the dragon seal space. He wanted to see if the two of them had any way to help him take Yuin away. Before Longao could ask, Bai Ling glared at him fiercely. "Big brother Long, have you forgotten what you promised me?" How could Longao not know about Bai Ling's worries? The more it was so, the more he couldn't let anything happen to Bai Ling. Fortunately, he had sealed the deity blade. Otherwise, once Xiling and Bai Ling appeared, not only would they not be able to help him, but they would also be captured by Tong Zun and devoured. "Bai Ling, let's talk about this later. Help me think of a way to deal with Tong Zun." Longao didn't care if the two of them knew about Tong Zun and Sky Wolf. Anyway, he told them everything that had happened. "Brother Long, can't you give up?" Longao didn't say anything, but the expression on his face said it all. After a deep sigh, Bai Ling seemed like she wanted to say something. But in the end, she swallowed her words. Because she knew Longao's character well. Once he had decided on something, it was hard to change his mind. "Longao, I know, but I can tell you clearly that Sky Wolf and Tong Zun aren't people that you can deal with. Even if you fuse with our Swordchi origin, you won't be able to fight against them. Unless my sister and I recover our strength to our peak. But it's not possible now." Although he already knew the result, Longao couldn't help but sigh. It seemed like he had to force his way through. He couldn't care less about whether he lived or died. "Brother Long, why don't you let me help you?" Longao waved his hand. Even if he didn't ask, he knew how Bai Ling was going to help him. He didn't dare to accept this kind of help, because if he could take away Yuin and sacrifice Bai Ling, Longao would rather sacrifice himself than Yuin or Bai Ling outside the dragon seal space. "Old friend, is there still no way?" Sky Wolf shook his head and said helplessly, "It seems like the spatial divine tool is from the outside. It's so powerful." "Tong Zun, don't think that you can defeat me. I can tell you clearly that even if my strength is not as good as yours, as long as I want to, I can easily slaughter the martial arts alliance. Do you believe me?" Tong Zun and Sky Wolf, who had been smiling, were stunned. Just now, Longao's speed and his escape with the help of the spatial divine tool were still vivid in his mind. Just as Longao said, even if his strength could suppress the other party still had a spatial divine tool. It was always better to be safe than sorry. What if they failed to kill Longao and Longao escaped? What would happen to the martial artists alliance? With Longao's current strength, it would be too easy for him to slaughter the martial artists alliance. Even Tong Tiendi could not resist Longao's attack. If so, the martial artists alliance would be in danger. Whoosh! Before Sky Wolf and Tong Zun could react, Longao's figure instantly disappeared. In fact, Longao was not confident that he could escape from the joint attack of two super strong men. Even with the help of spatial teleportation, he could not do it. That was right. Longao came up with this idea. When Tong Zun and Sky Wolf were not paying attention, the chances of him escaping would be infinitely higher. Sky Wolf and Tong Zun looked at each other and saw a trace of worry in each other's eyes. The two of them were not fools. They instantly understood what Longao meant. Let's split up. No matter what happens, we must find each other as soon as possible. Skywolf also knew the seriousness of the situation. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately took action. The man and the wolf split up and soon disappeared without a trace. As soon as the man and the wolf disappeared, Longao's figure appeared. Looking at the man and the dragon who had disappeared, Longao's mouth slowly curved into a cold smile. This time, he was able to avoid Skywolf's aura lock because of Long Fu, Xiling, and Bai Ling's help. He had to admit that Skywolf's ability to lock onto him was a little crazy. Even if he hid in the Dragon Seal space, he could not escape from Skywolf's lock onto him. Long Fu, can you lock onto Yu Yin's aura? When Longao got the Dragon Seal, Yu Yin happened to be by his side. Therefore, Long Fu was not unfamiliar with Yu Yin's aura. Therefore, Longao planned to use Long Fu to lock onto Yu Yin's location so that he could take Yu Yin and leave the Martial Artists Alliance as soon as possible. Every minute they were delayed, Yu Yin and he would be in more danger. Master, please give me some time. With a dignified expression, Longao did not continue to force Long Fu. This was because he knew that there were many experts in the Martial Artists Alliance. Long Fu had to avoid Tong Zun and Skywolf's aura. This way, the progress of locking onto Yu Yin would be much slower. Long Fu also knew that his master was very anxious. He immediately began to release the aura of the Dragon Seal, enveloping the entire Martial Artists Alliance. He carefully searched for Yu Yin's location. However, after scanning for a while, he still could not lock on to Yu Yin's location. Time trickled by. After an unknown amount of time, about an hour or so, Longao could not wait any longer. With a turn of his body disappeared. He was prepared to personally look for Yu Yin because there was not much time left. After a rough calculation, there was less than 2 hours left before the 6 hours were up. In other words, if he could not take Yu Yin away within 2 hours, then things would be really troublesome. At that time, not only would he not be able to take Yu Yin away, he would also be devoured by the Origin Sword Qi. The consequences would be unimaginable. This was exactly the case. Longao could not wait any longer. As he ran, he tried to sense for Yu Yin's aura. Where was Yu Yin? Brother Long, come with me. At this moment, Tong Ling Er's figure appeared. Seeing Tong Ling Er, Longao was immediately delighted. This was because he knew very well that with Tong Ling Er's status in the Martial Artists Alliance, she would definitely know where Yu Yin was. Ling Er, where is Yu Yin? Longao could not wait any longer. He knew that he did not have much time left. P.S. I just got off work, so I'm a bit late. Everyone, please forgive me. The 4th chapter has been delivered. No matter what, Xiaoju will explode with 10 chapters today. Chapter 1282. Tong Ling Er, Tong Tiandi's daughter, was the apple of the Martial Artists Alliance's eye. Just as Longao had guessed. This time, in order to deal with him, the Martial Arts Alliance had hidden Yu Yin in an extremely secretive place. If there was no one to lead the way, it would be very difficult to find Yu Yin's location just by locking onto her aura. Brother Long, although I know where she is, it's very dangerous. I'm afraid you'll be in danger. Of course, Tong Ling Er didn't want Longao to die. Ling Er, I'm running out of time. Where on earth is Yu Yin? Tong Ling Er didn't know what Longao meant. She felt jealous. Come with me. She nodded. Longao followed Tong Ling Er to the Aquamoon Cave as fast as he could. Outside the Aquamoon Cave, the most dangerous place was the safest place. Longao had never expected that the Martial Artists Alliance would hide Yu Yin in the Aquamoon Cave. If Tong Ling Er hadn't brought him here, it would have been very difficult to find her. Ling Er, you leave first. Before Tong Ling Er could say anything, Longao continued, I don't want anything to happen to you. I won't kill your father. Since he had said that, Tong Ling Er could only sigh deeply in her heart and turn around to leave. From the beginning to the end, Longao had never planned to kill Tong Tiandi. The reason was very simple. No matter how big the grudge between him and Tong Tiandi was still Tong Ling Er's father. As the saying goes, Even if you don't respect the monk, you have to respect the Buddha. He didn't sense any Nirvana warrior's aura. What was going on? Longao had thought that there would be many Nirvana warriors guarding the Aquamoon Cave. But now it seemed that there were no strong warriors. Wouldn't it be a waste for him? Longao did not let his guard down at all, because he knew very well that the reason he started a war with the Martial Artists Alliance this time was mainly because of Yuin. He knew it, and so did the Martial Artists Alliance. The Martial Artists Alliance would not make such a low-level mistake. It seemed like the Aquamoon heavenly abode was filled with danger. The slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. Longao, do you still recognize me? Before Longao could enter Longao, Hades and Yuin appeared in front of him. Hades seemed very surprised, because even she did not expect Longao to be so strong. Not only had he fought against 9 of them alone, but he had even killed 2 of their vice leaders and forced the Grand Ancestor to show himself. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Hades would never have believed it. From the beginning to the end, Hades had never taken Longao seriously. I'm going to take Yuin away. Longao had never had a good impression of the underworld god. If it were not for Hades, he would not have been separated from Yuin for so many years. It was all thanks to Hades. You want to take Yuin away? Hades sneered and said, Longao, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you increased your strength by force. Even without the Grand Ancestor, you can't take Yuin away today. Do you believe it? Looking at the confident Hades, Longao would be lying if he said that he was not afraid and not worried. Longao looked at Yuin in front of him and was a little surprised, because at this moment, Yuin seemed a little dull. Her eyes were empty, and she did not recognize him at all. Something was wrong. Longao was not a fool. At first glance, he had already noticed that something was wrong with Yuin. It seemed that the Martial Artists Alliance had done something to Yuin. He was extremely angry, and his face was extremely gloomy. Those who stand in my way will die. Ha ha ha, with just you? Hades suddenly laughed crazily. She had never thought highly of Longao. Even now, in her eyes, Longao was still trash. Trash was trash. Longao could not wait any longer, because the 6 hours were almost up. If he still could not take Yuin away, then he and Yuin would have to stay here, and their lives would be in the hands of the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao's body moved. In Longao's opinion, with his current strength, even if Tong Tindi and the others joined forces, they would not be his match, let alone Hades. Hades was only a warrior of the divine path. But what was the result? Longao left quickly and returned even faster. Longao's face was full of shock. They had only exchanged one blow, but he could clearly feel Hades' terrifying strength. With such strength, even if he was not as strong as Tong Tindi, he believed that Hades was on par with him. It was no wonder that Hades had such a high position in the Martial Artists Alliance. He scolded fiercely. The Martial Artists Alliance was indeed a place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. As expected of one of the 10 great tripods, Longao finally witnessed the power of the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao did not dare to be careless. He looked at Hades coldly. Even though he knew that he was no match for him, he still rushed out. This was because he came to the Martial Artists Alliance this time to take Yuin away, even though he knew that Hades was powerful. Longao teleported. In the next second, he was already in front of Hades. He punched out with both fists toward Hades. Longao used all of his strength in this punch. Even Tong Tindi would not dare to take it head-on. Otherwise, this punch would be enough to kill Tong Tindi. However, Hades did not have the slightest intention of dodging. He took Longao's punch head-on. In other words, Hades stood still and was hit by Longao's punch. Longao felt as if he had punched cotton. Longao's heart trembled. The strength of the underworld god was a bit too overbearing. Longao didn't dare to be careless. He immediately left, but it was too late. The underworld god's body was shaking like a breeze. Before Longao could react, he was hit by Hades. His body flew out like a kite with a broken string. However, before Longao could fly too far, Hades' body appeared again. Then, he punched Longao again. In this way, Longao was punched left and right by Hades continuously. If it was someone else, they would have been smashed to death. However, Longao had the holy body of desolation and the sword chi origin of Tu Jianling. Therefore, even if he was hit continuously, Longao stopped abruptly. Hades was very surprised. She never thought that Longao could take so many of her punches. After all, Hades was very confident in her strength. Longao was indeed a little extraordinary. Longao, I will show you the power of the dark world. Dark world? Although Longao did not know what the so-called dark world was, he was very clear that the god of the underworld's move was definitely not simple. He did not dare to be careless. He endured the pain in his body, gritted his teeth, and prepared to take the other party's move. At this moment, a black fog appeared around Hades' body. It was very strange. In an instant, it enveloped Longao. Erosion? Longao was shocked. He could clearly feel that the dark aura released by Hades at this time could erode his soul. P.S. I got off work late today. I only got off work at 10 o'clock. Xiaoju ate and immediately continued to write. This is the 5th chapter. Even if I don't sleep tonight, I will finish the remaining 10 chapters. Chapter 1283. Who on earth was Hades? Longao was not a fool. Hades had such terrifying strength, so his identity was definitely not simple. Longao could feel that Hades' strength was definitely above Tong Tiandi's. If that was the case, wouldn't the underworld god be the second strongest person in the martial arts alliance? He cursed in his heart. Tong Zun was already hard enough to deal with. Now there was Hades. With the combination of the two, it was really uncertain whether he could take Yuan away this time. It did not matter if he died. Longao knew that no matter what happened, he would take Yuan away this time. Hades, are you still Yu Yin's master? He seemed to know what Longao wanted to say. He waved his hand. Without giving Longao any chance to continue, Hades sneered and said, Longao, Yuan is my disciple. She was, is, and will be in the future. But if you want to take Yuan away, you can't. Hades' strength was obvious. How could he force his way in? It was getting closer and closer to the 6 hours. After 6 hours, he would be counterattacked by the sword energy of origin. He did not even know whether he would live or die. Yuan would definitely die if she continued to stay in the martial artists alliance. Thinking of this, Longao's murderous aura became more and more intense. He stared coldly at Hades and asked, I'll ask you one last time. Will you let me take Yuan away? No. It was a fight with his back to the wall. You forced me to do this. 9 needles of mind. Longao had no choice but to use 9 needles of mind in the end. 9 needles of mind could improve one's strength in the shortest time, but the consequences were not something that ordinary people could accept. Longao knew very well that he had already used the 9 needles to confer God several times and had escaped death. If he continued to use it forcefully, then this time he was afraid that he would directly die from the backlash of the 9 needles to confer God. Using the origin sword chi to increase his strength, he used the 9 needles to continue to increase his strength. It was easy to imagine the consequences of the double upgrade, but in this case, Longao had no other choice. He could only take Yuan away first. It was still that sentence. Longao had already disregarded life and death. 9 divine needles appeared and pierced into 9 different acupoints on Longao's body. Instantly, Longao's aura began to circulate crazily. In just a few seconds, his strength had increased by at least 10 times. What kind of concept was this? Hades' expression changed as well. If it was before, she wouldn't have put Longao in her eyes at all. She could have easily dealt with Longao with a flick of her finger. But now? Longao. Feeling the sudden surge of aura from Longao's body, Hades knew very well that Longao must have used some kind of secret technique. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to improve so much in such a short time. Strike first. Hades was really a little worried, so she rushed out and prepared to kill Longao first. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Longao's strength really increased to a level higher than hers, then wouldn't she be defeated? But what was the result? Longao's strength was definitely not as good as Hades, but under the enhancement of the 9 needles to confer God, his strength had increased by dozens of times. With a cold look, Longao directly threw out a punch. The 2 fists fiercely collided together, and sparks flew. Hades, who was still arrogant just a moment ago, was directly sent flying by the punch. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was extremely gloomy. Hades never thought that the opponent's strength would be so strong. If that was the case, then wouldn't she be no match for him? Before Hades could react, Longao's body had already disappeared. When Hades finally reacted, not only Longao, but also Yu'in had disappeared. She was shocked. As soon as the 2 disappeared, Tongzun, Sirius, and Tong Tiendi arrived. Looking at the god of the underworld, everyone knew what had happened. Master, Longao has left. Master? If Longao was here and heard Hades' words, what would he think? It turned out that Hades' master was Tongzun, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance. Why did you fail? Tongzun loved this disciple of his very much. Even when Longao took away Yu'in, he did not immediately go berserk. Instead, he asked calmly. This was because Tongzun could not understand why his disciple would let Longao leave with his strength. Could there be a change in the situation? Hades fiercely scolded himself in his heart. It was all because he had delayed too much. Otherwise, Longao would be dreaming if he wanted to leave. Without hiding anything, he recounted everything that had happened earlier in full detail. After listening, Tongzun nodded and said, "If I'm not mistaken, Longao used the secret skill again. It's hard to imagine that there is such a secret skill in the world. Pass down my order. From now on, attack the dragon sect with all your might. As long as someone can find Longao's whereabouts, I will accept him as my disciple. I promise that within 3 years, his cultivation will increase by 5 realms." Hearing their ancestors' order, Tong Tiendi and the others did not dare hesitate. They immediately scattered. Longao is not simple. It seems we miscalculated this time. Tongzun nodded. He had not expected Longao to use the secret skill twice to forcefully increase his strength. If he had known, he wouldn't have been so careless. At the start, he would have directly dealt with Longao, not giving Longao the slightest chance. I want to see how Longao will escape from my grasp. Longao has forcefully broken through his strength twice. If nothing unexpected happens, he will definitely suffer a backlash from his strength. If he dies somewhere, in the vast sea of people in the sky martial continent, it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find a corpse. We have waited for so many years and finally got the chance. Are we going to give up so easily? Tongzun's expression was ugly when he heard Tianlang's words. This should have been a sure thing, but an accident had occurred. Furthermore, it was his disciple who had made a mistake. He had no way to vent his anger. Do you have a good idea? No. It seems like we can only rely on the greed of the world to find Longao's whereabouts. However, the chances are slim. How could Tongzun not know that the chances were slim? But what could he do? Just as Tianlang had said, the martial heaven continent was filled with people. Finding a single person was easier said than done. Even the Martial Arts Alliance would find it difficult to do so. It would be a lie to say that they weren't angry. Then what should we do now? Tongzun thought for a moment and said, "We'll take it one step at a time. It seems like the martial heaven continent will not be peaceful with my appearance. However, it has been quiet for 10,000 years. It's time for us to make a ruckus. Back then, we lost to the heavenly Tao. This time, we must win." Tongzun and Tianlang looked at the sky at the same time. It was as if they could see through the void. Chapter 1284. Longao rushed to the dragon sect as fast as he could. But in the end, time waits for no man. Longao could have held on for another 2 hours, but after using the 9 needles to seal the spirit, the time was shortened by 10 times. 10 minutes later, Longao was already suffering from the backlash and could not hold on at all. There was no other way. Longao could only find an extremely secluded cave and seal the entrance completely. Then, he sat down cross-legged. Long Fu, help me take care of Yuan. Longao could clearly sense that there seemed to be something wrong with the current Yuan. Master, don't worry. Long Fu was also extremely worried. He said, Master, you are suffering from the backlash of two things. Immediately use the firmament devouring art. Nodding, Longao certainly knew the seriousness of the matter. He did not dare to be careless. Following Long Fu's instructions, he immediately started to use the firmament devouring art. A huge black vortex appeared behind him. Longao knew what Long Fu meant. He wanted to use the firmament devouring art to devour the power of the backlash. He hoped that this would be effective. The consequences of the double backlash could be imagined. If it were anyone else, they would have died at this moment. Xiling and Bai Ling's figures appeared. Bai Ling's face was filled with worry, but she knew very well that Longao could not be touched at all. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sister, is this the Wang Yuan that Longao likes? Nodding, Bai Ling also saw Yuan beside Longao. However, Bai Ling was very curious. She asked, Sister, is there something wrong with Yuan? Of course there is something wrong. The Martial Artists Alliance is really ruthless. They have completely sealed Yu Yin's mind. Even if she can break the seal, it will be very harmful to Yuan. Elder sister. Without waiting for Bai Ling to finish, Xiling said, I don't have a way. Even if I did, I wouldn't save her. Xiling looked at his sister and knew what Bai Ling was thinking. Silly sister. Sometimes, Xiling felt helpless towards his sister. After all, it was not a good thing for a person to be too kind. Sister, I know what you're thinking, but have you ever thought that if we save this person, will Longao still treat you well? How could Bai Ling not know what her sister was talking about? But how could Bai Ling, who was born kind-hearted, watch Yuan die in vain? Within Longao's body, even if he used the firmament devouring art, he would not be able to recover from the double backlash. Longao knew that at this time, it had already reached the most critical moment. If he was slightly negligent, he was afraid that only death would await him. In the wordless book space, looking at the space around him, Longao was very curious. He did not know why he suddenly appeared here. Could it be that the mysterious young man moved him here? Other than this possibility, there seemed to be no other possibility. Just as expected, the mysterious young man suddenly appeared, but his face was extremely cold. He said coldly, Longao, you are too reckless this time. Longao did not speak, because he did not know what the mysterious young man wanted to say. From the beginning to the end, Longao did not believe the mysterious young man's words. Was it possible that he had reincarnated for 100 lifetimes? According to what he knew, a martial artist, no matter how terrifying his talent was, could at most reincarnate for 9 lifetimes. For example, Long Tian was a powerful existence even if he had reincarnated for 9 lifetimes, let alone 100 lifetimes. If he really had reincarnated for 100 lifetimes, wouldn't he be very powerful? But in the end, Longao, I can help you this time, but next time, even if you die, I won't help you. Hearing the mysterious young man's words, Longao was overjoyed. Although he did not know the mysterious young man's strength, Longao knew that since the mysterious young man dared to say so, he must be confident that he could help him. This time, he would definitely die from the double backlash. Thank you, Senior. Remember, this is the first and last time. Think carefully before you do anything. Shrugging his shoulders helplessly, Longao also heaved a long sigh of relief. It was all thanks to the mysterious young man that he was able to survive this calamity. Otherwise, with the strength of the double backlash, he would have definitely died. Next, Longao didn't know how the mysterious young man did it. In just a few hours, he was able to completely destroy his double backlash. However, it would be unrealistic to say that there weren't any side effects from forcefully increasing his strength this time. A few hours later, Longao slowly opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. Before Xiling and Bai Ling could ask, he said, I'm fine now. This time, it was really scary but not dangerous. You don't have to worry. Seeing that Longao was fine, the three of them were very experienced. This was because the three of them were very clear about the consequences of the double backlash. If there were no side effects, Longao could use the double boost again and again. At that time, in this big world, Longao would be able to do whatever he wanted. The three of them did not ask, because Longao obviously did not want to say more. Since that was the case, the three of them would not ask for a rebuff and ask Longao what happened. Yuin, are you okay? Seeing that Yuin did not say a word in front of him, Longao was very worried. He turned around and asked, do you know what happened to Yuin? Longao did not care about himself. Although the mysterious young man helped him this time, it was very harmful to his body. He had to recuperate. Otherwise, it would definitely affect his future cultivation. However, in this situation, Longao did not have the mood to recuperate. He only cared about one thing, and that was Yuin in front of him. Brother Long, Yu Yin's mind must have been controlled by the martial artists' alliance, and her spiritual soul must have been sealed. Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. However, Xiling cursed in her heart. However, since her sister had said so, she could only remain silent. She could not tell Longao that she had a way, but she would not tell him that she was doing all this for her sister. In fact, Xiling and Bai Ling already knew how deep Longao's feelings for Yuin were. After all, for Yuin, Longao dared to become enemies with the martial artists' alliance. If it was an ordinary person, would they be able to do this? Longao's feelings for Yuin exceeded that of ordinary people. Regarding this point, no matter if it was Xiling or Bai Ling, they were very clear in their hearts. Bai Ling, do you have a way? Xiling kept winking at Bai Ling, but Bai Ling turned a blind eye to it. After thinking for a while, she said, Brother Long, if you want to save Yuin, you have to find the clairvoyant master, Tian Dao or Tong Zun. She did not continue, because Bai Ling's meaning was very clear. Tong Zun and Tian Dao were already impossible. Only the clairvoyant master was left. P.S. If you want to continue supporting Xiaoju, Xiaoju thanks you. If you don't want to continue supporting Xiaoju, Xiaoju will not complain because Xiaoju has really tried her best. I am busy during the day and stay up until 4 or 5 at night to write. However, Xiaoju still grit her teeth and persevere. Chapter 1285. For Yuin, Longao went to the outer sea immediately. He didn't care about his own situation and went there without hesitation. Longao went to the outer sea as fast as he could, because the marvelous mathematician was in the Crystal Palace there. Sky Martial Continent. In the current Tianwu continent, it could be said that everyone was discussing spiritedly, and the person they were discussing was Longao, a legendary figure. He made a scene in the Martial Artist Alliance, killed 2 deputy chiefs of the alliance, lured out Tong Zun, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, and successfully left the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao's various deeds could be said to be a mission that was simply impossible to complete. But the result? Longao did it. At this moment, Longao became famous. Before anyone could react, the Martial Artists Alliance announced to the world that as long as anyone could find Longao's whereabouts, the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, would not only accept that person as his disciple, but also help that person improve by 5 levels. What did that mean? If it were anyone else, no one would be willing to help the Martial Artists Alliance. But Tong Zun had a different idea. Everyone knew that Tong Zun was not only the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, but also a super powerhouse who had surpassed the heaven role. If one could become the disciple of such a powerhouse, they would not have to worry about their cultivation in the future while improving by 5 levels. The announcement of the Martial Artists Alliance moved everyone, including the disciples of the other 9 super forces. Everyone was ready to make a move. Without any suspense, Tong Zun announced to the world personally. Everyone started to look for Longao. Originally, many people were afraid of Longao. After all, Longao dared to break into the Martial Artists Alliance alone, killed 2 deputy chiefs, and escaped under Tong Zun's nose. That in itself showed how powerful Longao was. But the result? When Tong Zun announced to the world, the Martial Artists Alliance released a piece of news about Longao. The news released by the Martial Artists Alliance was simple. That is, the biggest reason why Longao had the strength of a Nirvana Realm warrior when he made a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance was that Longao had used some kind of secret skill to forcibly raise his strength. There were both good and bad things about this. The advantage was that by using the secret technique, one could forcibly increase one's strength in the shortest amount of time. The downside was that once the time passed, he would suffer a backlash, and the consequences would be unimaginable. So that was the case. When everyone knew that Longao had used a secret technique, they were still very respectful towards Longao. How many people in the world had the guts to do so? Longao did it. However, under the huge temptation, no one could resist. Everyone began to frantically search for traces of Longao. This kind of phenomenon had never appeared in so many years, and the source of all this was because of one person, and that was Longao. Under normal circumstances, trying to find a single person in the sea of people of the Martial Heaven continent was like trying to find a needle in the ocean. However, the situation was completely different now. Everyone in the Martial Heaven continent was looking for Longao, which greatly reduced the difficulty of finding him. However, even so, as long as Longao hid and did not come out, it was still very difficult to find him. Not only that, the Martial Artists Alliance began to attack the Dragon Sect. This time, the Martial Artists Alliance used all their strength and announced to the world that if someone could help the Martial Artists Alliance destroy the Dragon Sect, then that force would receive the full support of the Martial Artists Alliance from now on. Since then, as the saying goes, when there is a great reward, there will be a brave man. In order to get the support of the Martial Artists Alliance, many sects and families would go through fire and water to destroy the Dragon Sect. This move, the Martial Artists Alliance was playing with a borrowed knife. The Dragon Sect had already hidden, and no one could find it. Originally, the Heaven and Earth Sect would help the Dragon Sect, but now, Tong Zun's sudden appearance had completely disrupted the Heaven and Earth Sect's plan. Yi Dugu could not provoke Tong Zun for the sake of the Dragon Sect and Longao. The Heaven and Earth Sect could ignore the Martial Artists Alliance, but they could not ignore Tong Zun. The Dragon Sect? Master, the Martial Artists Alliance has already started a large-scale search for us. If this goes on, it will not work. Once the Dragon Sect is found, the consequences will be unimaginable. The two of them were extremely worried as they did not know whether Longao was dead or alive. However, the two of them were very clear that no matter what happened, they had to protect the Dragon Sect. They could not let the Dragon Sect be destroyed. Otherwise, when Longao returned, they would not be able to explain to Longao. She nodded helplessly. How could Longing not know about the Dragon Sect's current situation? She thought for a while. Brother Dugu, with our current situation, I believe that once we move or reveal ourselves, we will be discovered by the Martial Artists Alliance and other forces. Therefore, we can only hide for now. I really did not expect that Seventh Brother would cause such a ruckus in the Martial Artists Alliance. Not only did he kill the two Vice Alliance Masters, he even attracted the attention of the ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, a legendary figure in the Sky Martial Continent. Dugu Bai was shocked. He did not expect Tong Zun to be so powerful. Now that he thought about it, Brother Long was really powerful. Ordinary people would not be able to escape under Tong Zun's nose. Taking a deep breath, Dugubai asked seriously, Master, what should we do now? Being searched for by the Martial Artists Alliance and other forces, the Dragon Sect could be said to be within reach. Who knew when they would be found? In fact, both Longying and Dugubai understood one thing. Once the Dragon Sect was discovered, it would definitely be destroyed. There was no suspense. Currently, the Dragon Sect did not have any experts guarding it. Before Longao left, in order to cause a ruckus in the Martial Artists Alliance, not only did he forcefully increase his strength, he even took away 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves. As a result, the Dragon Sect's strength was greatly reduced. Not to mention the Martial Artists Alliance, the Dragon Sect could not even contend against a third-rate force. It would be a lie to say that they were not worried. But what was the use of worrying? After thinking about it, Longing sneered and said, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. What can the Martial Artists Alliance do? As long as we hide here, I don't believe that the Martial Artists Alliance can find us." Brother Dugu, immediately give the order. From now on, no matter who it is, no one is allowed to leave the dragon sect. Those who disobey will not only be expelled from the sect, they will also be killed. Dugubai knew how serious the situation was. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately turned to leave. According to Long Ying's order, no one was allowed to leave the sect. Only then could they continue to hide and not be discovered by the Martial Artists Alliance and other forces. Seventh brother, I hope that you're all right. Otherwise, I won't be able to give an explanation to the clan. Looking at the empty hall, Long Ying deeply sighed. Until now, they still didn't know whether Longao was alive or dead. Chapter 1286. In the Outer Sea, outside the Crystal Palace, Longao had been extremely worried about Yu Yin's safety, so he had rushed over without stopping. It had taken him less than a day to get here. The God Diviner isn't here. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao's heart sank. This was a huge problem. Without the God Diviner, the Martial Heaven continent was filled with people. Trying to find the God Diviner was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Longao was extremely depressed. He had rushed over to the Outer Sea in order to borrow the God Diviner's power to help Yu Yin recover her consciousness. But now it seemed that this was a huge problem. Who knew where the God Diviner had gone, or when he would return? Could it be that he had to wait here forever? What if the God Diviner didn't return for some time? Wouldn't that delay Yu Yin? Sighing deeply, Longao had no other choice. He could only take Yu Yin away from the Outer Sea and see if there were any other methods to save Yu Yin. Xiling, Bai Ling, your true bodies are at the peak of the martial path. If the God Diviner can save Yu Yin, I trust that you can do it as well. If it weren't for the fact that he had no other choice, Longao really wouldn't have asked. Seeing Yu Yin's blank expression and empty eyes, it would be a lie to say that he didn't feel sorry for her. Xiling shrugged helplessly. Big Brother Long, before Bai Ling could say anything, Xiling glared at her. Longao's heart thumped. He knew Bai Ling's character the best. If Bai Ling was acting like this, then she really did have a way. Was Xiling unwilling to save Yu Yin? That shouldn't be the case. Xiling and Yu Yin shouldn't have any enmity between them. They didn't even know each other. Since that was the case, why would Xiling do this? No matter how much he thought about it, Longao still couldn't figure it out. Longao, you don't have to guess. We do have a way to save Wang Yu Yin, but I want to ask you, why are we doing this? As expected, Longao had already guessed that Xiling and Bai Ling should have a way to save Yu Yin. As for why they were unwilling to help, that was unknown. Longao didn't say anything because he didn't know how to answer. Why did Xiling do this? It had to be said that when it came to relationships, Longao was indeed a little slow. He snorted coldly. Xiling seemed to be in a bad mood and said, Longao, my sister is deeply in love with you. I believe you should know, right? I know. So what if he knew? Xiling's words made Longao even more confused. He didn't know how saving Yu Yin had anything to do with Bai Ling's feelings for him. Seeing that Longao really didn't know, Xiling was extremely angry. If he didn't know Longao's character well, he would have thought that Longao was doing it on purpose. Longao, you and Bai Ling have already done it, and your feelings for her are there. But now, you're ignoring Bai Ling's feelings for a woman. I want to ask you, do you have Bai Ling in your heart? Longao wasn't stupid. He instantly understood what Xiling meant. That's right. When had he ever considered Bai Ling's feelings? At this point, Xiling didn't continue. He turned around and disappeared into the Godslayer's sword. Bai Ling, I'm sorry. I really neglected your feelings. Brother Long waving his hand, Longao didn't give Bai Ling any chance to speak. He continued, before I met you, there were two most important women in my life. One was Aoshue, and the other was Yu Yin. Then, Longao told Bai Ling about himself and Yu Yin. Towards Yu Yin, Longao didn't just love her. He was also determined to never leave her. Back then, Longao was just a piece of trash in the Long family. He was mocked, despised, and looked down on by everyone. Even his parents, grandfather, and siblings chose to give up on him. Only Yuin didn't leave him. For 10 whole years, she didn't even hesitate to harm her own body for him. How could he give up on such a lover? After hearing this, Bai Ling was already in tears. Even Xiling and the Godslayer's sword didn't say much. He believed that no man in the world would give up on a woman like Yuin. Brother Long, Sister Yuin. At this point, Bai Ling choked a few times. She continued, Brother Long. Actually, my sister and I have already discussed this. If the clairvoyant isn't willing to help, or if he's not here, we'll use the second method. But the second method is a little difficult. If you have to bring Sister Yuin along, I'm afraid. Bai Ling didn't finish her words, but the meaning was clear. I've already thought about this. I'll send Yuin back to the dragon sect later. I won't let her follow us. Longao originally wanted to send Yuin back to her family in the Jiuzhou continent. But after thinking about it, he didn't want to delay any longer. After all, Bai Ling was in such a state. Every minute he delayed it, Bai Ling would be in more danger. In desperation, Longao prepared to send Longao back to the dragon sect first. He believed that his big brother could protect Yuin. Bai Ling. What's the second method? Intuition told Longao that Bai Ling and Xiling's second method shouldn't be simple. Otherwise, the two of them would have directly told him the second method. There was no need for him to go to the outer sea to find the clairvoyant to save Yuin. Brother Long, if our guess is right, Sister Yuyin's consciousness should have been sealed by Tong Zun. If my sister and I can recover our original strength, we can easily break the seal. But now, we don't have the confidence. If we're careless, Sister Yuyin's soul will vanish. At that time, no matter who it is, it will be difficult to save Sister Yuin. Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. Now it seemed that it wasn't that Xiling and Bai Ling didn't want to help, but that the two of them were afraid. In the end, the two of them were doing this for the good of Yuin and himself. He was very grateful. Xiling was a classic example of a person who was tough on the mouth but soft on the heart. Bai Ling, what's the plan? Things had already come to this point. Longao knew that no matter what happened, no matter what difficulties he faced, he had to face them. Because it was all for Yuin. Brother Long, Long Family Ancestral Hall. After hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao didn't hesitate and immediately set off. Dragon Sect. In the main hall, Longao and Duguo Bai were extremely surprised by Longao's smooth return. This time, Longao had caused havoc in the Martial Artists Alliance and killed 2 of their vice leaders. Under normal circumstances, they didn't know if Longao would be able to leave the Martial Artists Alliance. Duguo Bai and Longing originally thought that Longao was doomed. But now, the two of them were excited and surprised. Longao's safe return was more important than anything else. Seventh brother, it's good that you're fine. Quickly tell us, what happened this time? Duguo Bai and Longing couldn't wait to ask Longao as soon as he sat down. P.S. 3 new chapters tonight. Explode tomorrow. Explode as much as you can. Little 9 will stay up late tonight. Brothers who want to wait can wait. Chapter 1287. He chuckled. He didn't seem to care about the Martial Artists Alliance at all. Seeing Longao's expression, Duguo Bai and Longing looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. The two of them felt helpless. If it were anyone else, it would be strange if they didn't worry about death. But their 7th brother acted as if nothing had happened. Without hiding anything, Longao told them everything that had happened at the Martial Artists Alliance. It was so normal for Longao to say it. After listening to Longao, the two of them knew that the situation back then was extremely dangerous. But no matter what, it was a good thing that their 7th brother had returned safely. Big brother Duguo. This time I came back mainly to bring Yuin back. I'll leave Yuin to you guys. Longao also told them about Yuin. 7th brother, don't worry. Leave Yuin to us. Unless we die, nothing will happen to Yuin. Between brothers, there was no need to say anything. If Longao didn't even trust Duguo Bai and Longing, then who else in the Tianwu continent was worthy of his trust? Longao only stayed in the dragon sect for a few hours. Yu Yin's consciousness was sealed, and he couldn't wait for a moment. Long family. Ever since Longao had caused havoc at the Martial Artists Alliance, killed 2 deputy leaders, and disappeared under Tong Zun's nose, Longao's name had spread throughout the world. In the main hall, "Father, I didn't expect Longao to be so powerful that he could kill 2 deputy leaders." Tong Tiany's expression was very serious. He didn't expect Longao to have such great potential. If he had known, he wouldn't have chosen to give up on Longao. It was all Long Heng's doing. Longao was able to use a secret technique to forcibly increase his strength. I don't know what method he could use to help someone break through to the Nirvana realm in such a short period of time. Before Long Bo could speak, Long Di Tian's face was filled with surprise as he said, "Since you're here, show yourself." Looking at the sudden appearance of Longao, Long Bo was very surprised. Because the Long family was heavily guarded, Longao was able to appear here without anyone noticing. This in itself showed how powerful Longao was. Long family members were in a state of panic ever since the Dragon Clan was sealed. The security was no longer as tight as before. "Patriarch, Longao, please take a seat." After the incident with the Martial Artists Alliance, especially after seeing Longao arrive safely, Long Di Tian's attitude took a 180-degree turn. Furthermore, Longao could freely enter and leave the Dragon Clan. Everyone in the Long family, including Long Di Tian, could not enter the Dragon Clan. "Longao, I wonder why you've come here this time?" As the saying goes, one does not visit a temple without a reason. If there was nothing, why would Longao come for no reason? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he would never believe it. Longao was not in a mess at all. He went straight to the point and said, "Patriarch, I came here this time to enter the ancestral hall." "No." Before Long Di Tian could speak, Long Bo had already rejected him. What a joke. The ancestral hall was the foundation of the Long family. Ordinary people could not enter at all. Furthermore, Longao had already entered once before. How could ordinary disciples enter the ancestral hall twice in a row? Furthermore, Longao was no longer a disciple of the Long family, so he had no right to enter the ancestral hall. If Longao entered the ancestral hall, not to mention the others, even the great elder of the family would not be convinced. If Longheng used this as an excuse to attack his father, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao ignored Long Bo, causing Long Bo to be furious. However, in Long Bo's heart, Longao's position was different. Previously, Long Bo did not even put Longao in his eyes. But now, regardless of whether Longao used a secret technique to increase his strength, just his courage alone was worthy of everyone's respect. "Father," waving his hand, not giving Long Bo any chance to speak, Long Di Tian said, "I know what to do. Longao, you should know what kind of place the ancestral hall is. If I allow you to enter, the others will definitely not be dissatisfied." As for Long Bo and Long Di Tian's intentions, how could Longao not know? However, he had no choice. This time, he came to the Long family to enter the ancestral hall and save Yuan. For Yuan, he could single-handedly barge into the Martial Artists Alliance, not to mention the Long family. "Patriarch, I am determined to succeed this time. No matter what happens, I will enter the ancestral hall." If it was the previous Longao, even if he said this, Long Di Tian would not care. But now, if Long Di Tian said that he was not afraid, he would definitely be lying. Longao was able to forcefully increase his strength and fight the Martial Artists Alliance. Then, he could do it a second time and continue to forcefully increase his strength and fight the Long family. If the Long family suffered any losses, how would he explain it to his family? "Longao, you can enter the ancestral hall, but you have to tell me, why do you want to enter?" "To save someone." "Save someone?" Hearing that Longao entered the ancestral hall to save someone, both Long Bo and Long Di Tian were surprised. Could it be because of Yuan? Longao had caused a ruckus in the Martial Artists Alliance just for a woman. Everyone knew about it, and many people admired Longao. It was also because of this that Long Dtion guessed that Longao had entered the ancestral hall for this so-called Yuan. If that was really the case, things would be troublesome. Longao could disregard his life and cause a ruckus in the martial artists' alliance for this woman. If that was the case, Longao could also cause a ruckus in the Long family for this woman. At that time, even if the Long family could kill Longao, they would suffer heavy losses. Moreover, Longao could escape from Tong Zun. Who in the Long family could stop Longao? Long Dtion was very worried. Longao's strength and secret techniques were obvious. If Longao came several times, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao, you are no longer a disciple of the Long family. Long Dtion did not ask further. He did not ask who the other party was, nor did he ask how to save him. In his heart, Long Dtion did not want to let Long Ao enter the ancestral hall. After all, he had always been at odds with Long Hang. If Long Hang knew about this, he would definitely make a big fuss about it. Patriarch, I believe that you will have a way. If I enter the ancestral hall, as long as this matter is not spread, I am afraid that no one will believe me. With regards to this, Long Ao was very confident. As the patriarch of the Long family, as long as Long Dtion was willing, not to mention once, even if he entered the ancestral hall 100 times, no one would know. He could do it without anyone knowing. Long Dtion lowered his head and pondered. Just as Long Ao had guessed, as the patriarch of the Long family, it would be easy for him to do this. However, Long Dtion had his own ideas. If Long Ao could agree to help him and the Dragon Clan, it would not be difficult for him to enter the ancestral hall. However, just as Long Dtion was about to agree, the surrounding air fluctuated, and in the next second, Long Hang's figure appeared. Patriarch, Long Ao is no longer a disciple of the Long family. If he enters the ancestral hall without permission, all of us will not accept it. As the great elder of the Long family, Long Hang's status and strength were obvious. Even Long Dtion was somewhat afraid of him. Otherwise, Long Dtion would have suppressed Long Hang long ago. Great elder. Without giving Long Dtion any chance to speak, Long Hang sneered and said, Long Ao is no longer a disciple of the Long family. He has no right to enter the ancestral hall. This matter will end here. If Patriarch insists, I can only call for an Elders Guild. When the time comes, Long Hang did not finish his words, but the meaning behind his words was very clear. Once the Elders Guild was called, Long Dtion knew that he would be in a passive position. On one side was Long Ao, and on the other was the clan. How should he choose? Looking at the first elder who suddenly appeared, Long Ao's heart was furious to the extreme. However, he did not turn hostile because he knew that unless he forcefully broke through, with his current strength, only death would await him. No matter what, his main purpose of coming to the Long clan this time was to save Yuan, not to let his emotions affect his decisions. Endure.